contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, happy Monday, buddy. Normally I'm not this excited, but lots of sports going on today.
Oh, it's a big day in Wisconsin. Happy Monday to you, Kroot, my dear friend. Also, of course, the political world continues to blow up.
A little bit of a disappointing sports weekend for the great state of Wisconsin, at least for us Badger fans. That was an ass whooping, that Michigan game. No fun to watch that one. My son's team, the undefeated Middleton 7th grade White Cardinals.
This is the
they
pinnacle
divided
of your victories this weekend.
He got crushed as well. They were undefeated. Hell, they'd barely been scored on. It was like, boom, they were getting smoked. Much like the Badgers got smoked. They came back a little stronger than the Badgers did, but still lost. And then, of course, the Brewers, the bullpen failed them, and they lost the first time in 13 games. So that was a little disappointing. No Packer game to get up to on a Sunday, of course, because Monday night game, Dom.
Monday Night Football, Green Bay Packers. Who are they playing?
Niners.
The Niners.
Like the 1-4 Niners.
And, of course, at the same time, I understand, Kroot, the Milwaukee Brewers will also be playing. What are you watching?
I think the hat says it all, Dom.
Oh, you're going to watch the Packers?
I am. I know it's playoffs. I know it's game 3 of the Divisional Championship Series. But my true passion, I'm a football guy.
Well, let's give him credit. At least he didn't spike himself.
I could never hit the curve. Even the hanging curves, they kind of intimidated me. I could do okay on a high school fastball, but never hit the curve. So I am a football guy, because big kids with big hearts can play football and be okay.
Yeah, that's that hand-eye coordination. Doesn't suit you too well, huh?
Oh, you shut up. Let's get to it, man. At least I was a big guy that couldn't catch a football. What was your excuse?
What are you talking about? I was born this way.
Like I said, what was your excuse?
Kroot, any sport, anytime, anywhere, man. I am an athlete. I don't know what you're talking about.
$50 on a round of golf.
Okay, besides golf. I'll give you that one.
Okay, so let's get into the politics.
I said sports, not golf.
I know Trump spent, his 210th day of his presidency on the golf course over the course of the weekend, while hurricane victims, were trying to rebuild in Florida with very little help from the federal government.
He was going down there today to lend some support.
But he already went golfing in the interim.
Maybe toss around a couple paper towels, maybe bring some nasal tissues down this time.
Bring some bounty. Donald Trump.
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf. Believe me.
That's right. Believe me. I don't believe him.
210 times. 210 rounds of golf. If Obama had played 1/10 that much golf, they'd have tarred and feathered him.
Wait. So Donald Trump plays more golf than Barack Obama?
Donald Trump plays more golf than W-cleared brush. During the midst of the Iraq war, after it kind of was figured out there was no real there. But anyways, Donald Trump sat down, Leslie Stahl, 60 Minutes. Wasn't real political over the weekend, mostly nursing my Badger losses. But I did watch this interview, at least most of it. It was easy to look away.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
But anyways, let's jump into it. Let's start with Cut 94, if we could, Fancy Brian. The question, back to Kavanaugh and the Blasey Ford testimony. And Leslie Stahl tried to hold the president accountable. Why he would make fun of Blasey Ford.
All you can do is ask the questions, Kroot.
Cut
Professor
94.
Blasey Ford, you mimicked her.
Had I not made that speech, we would not have won.
Oh, so it's all worth it then.
The ends justify the means under any circumstance. Let's keep going. Cut 95. Trump again on the 60 Minutes.
Professor Blasey Ford got before the Senate and was asked, what's the worst moment? And she said, when the two boys laughed at me, at my expense.
Okay.
And then I watched you mimic her, and thousands of people were laughing at her.
They can do what they, I will tell you, the way now Justice Kavanaugh was treated has become a big factor in the midterms. Have you seen what's gone on with the polls?
But did you have to?
Well, I think she was treated with great respect. I'll be honest.
But do you think
there
you
are those that
treated
think
her
she
with,
shouldn't have been?
Do you think you treated her with great respect?
I think so, yeah, I did.
But you seem to be saying that she lied.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to get into it because we won. It doesn't matter.
Well,
we won.
Once again, ends justify the mean. Doesn't matter. We won.
What a
Suck it.
terrible human being he is. And Leslie Stahl, what a great job staying on point, staying calm, and just letting him stutter over his non-answers. And finally he comes out, I don't care, we won, move along.
Cut 96, more Donald Trump on the 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl.
I was just saying she didn't seem to know anything.
No,
and you're trying to destroy a life of a man who has been extraordinary.
Why did you have to make fun of her?
I didn't really make fun.
Well, they were
What I
laughing.
said is the person that we're talking about didn't know the year, the time, the place.
And he proceeds to, make fun of her? Again,
Yes. Some more on national television.
More Donald Trump off the Kavanaugh topic and on to climate change and why he's still very, very skeptical. Cut 97.
I'm not denying climate change, but it could very well go back. You know, we're talking about over
that's
millions
denying
of
it.
years. They say that we had hurricanes that were far worse than what we just had with Michael.
Who says that? They say. You mean the
people
people
say
on the phone?
people say that in the
Yeah, but what about the scientists who say
Mostly the
it's worse than
boxy
ever?
friends.
They say.
You'd have to show me the scientists because they have a very big political agenda, Leslie.
I can't bring them in.
Scientists also have a political agenda.
I'm not clear that they do. Unless you're talking about political scientists.
Oh, well done, Crudy. Can you just do an internet search? I mean, you want to? The data's out there.
It's
You
worth
can
the Google.
Find it right now. President Trump, you could have one of your staffers. Hell, maybe your son-in-law Jared could find you the data. It's there. So,
New
you
UN study last week, Dom.
You willfully are ignorant of the facts because you do not engage, and you just think what you think. It's getting hotter now. It's going to come back around sometime, maybe. Well, there's really a reason for it, Crudy, for Trump and the Republicans. Brian, let's skip one. Go to 99, please.
I think something's happening, something's changing, and it'll change back again. I don't think it's a hoax. I think there's probably a difference, but I don't know that it's man-made. I will say this. I don't want to give trillions and trillions of dollars. I don't want to lose millions and millions of jobs. I don't want to be put at a disadvantage.
I want to be king on the burnt earth.
Does he play the violin? I mean, I would question, does he play the violin? Dom, more sound today. Should we take our first break? I think we got to take a break. We're going to break in the sound here. More Donald Trump today out in front of what's the helicopter? Marine One?
Sure.
On the front lawn. The POTUS, hashtag not my POTUS. Now, interesting little thing happened. Elizabeth Warren, you remember her. Pocahontas. Donald Trump has made her a target of derision. Much like he does many other women, quite nearly disrespectful to Leslie Stahl. And doesn't really want to get pinned down, not by a woman.
Oh, heavens no.
And what did Donald Trump say? Something to the effect, Elizabeth Warren, she lied, she's Pocahontas. He's said plenty of bad things about her, used her as something of a political prop. And I would say it would appear to me, Dom, Elizabeth Warren running for president in 2020. And he's got perhaps a little reason to worry. And she dropped a little information today, sort of a stick it in your ear, Donald Trump. Pocahontas this. So come back with us. We're the Devil's Advocates. It's a Monday. It's a Monday night. pregame show right here on Real Resistance Radio. The phone line's open for you at 844-967-2789. Got some fine guests later in the show, but want to come back and talk about my girl, Elizabeth Warren, with you.
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf.
Just a bit outside.
Please, it's too much winning.
He tried the corner and missed.
I have no idea.
Boy, how can these guys lay off pitches that close?
They call me the ratings machine.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, save the food. We're helping to stop food waste. Save the food. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on Real Resistance Radio. Tune in Sundays for Meet the Press with Chuck Todd from 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the Best of the Forum with Sherwin Hughes from 12 to 3 p.m. And Citizen Action's Battleground Wisconsin rages from 3 to 4 p.m. Get your groove on with Stu Man PM, Politics and Music 4 to 6 p.m. with Stu Daniels. Mandatory listening, always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the party lines are always open for all of our friends and even some of our enemies at 844-967-2789.
We won't scalp anyone here, Dom. You ever done an ancestry DNA test?
I have not.
23andMe?
Nope, haven't done one yet. I have nothing against them. I just haven't gotten around to it.
I'm not clear what sort of mangy mongrel you might be.
Oh. That's how they code us so they can clone us and replace us later on.
I come from the best stock, I assure you.
Well, Elizabeth Warren has been accused. Apparently, she said something that's very offensive to Rush Limbaugh and the President of the United States. Yeah, Rush also. Pocahontas.
Oh, my God, people. What?
Because they're under the impression that Elizabeth Warren somehow never would have made it to Harvard had she not made the claim that she was related to. Grandma told her that she had some Native American blood.
Right, family stories down the line.
Hence her high cheekbones or something of the sort.
Sure, okay.
Well, this morning, Monday morning, right in the midst of the midterms, Elizabeth Warren dropped a little DNA test and basically said, "Suck it, Donnie." Do we have the sound of this? I think we do. First and foremost, what did Donald Trump say about Elizabeth Warren? You know, go take a DNA test. Hell, I'll pay $1 million if you go take a DNA test.
To your favorite charity, right? Let's hear ADA.
I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian,
Yeah, I'll give you $1 million. I got a checkbook right here.
Well, they've kind of cut off the checkbook from the Trump Foundation that was funded with other people's money. You know, he was using that to settle these sort of, you know, gambling scores, if you will, Dom, personal debts. But today, a totally different tune. It's not that suddenly he accepts that Elizabeth Warren is indeed related to Native Americans. That apparently is what the DNA testing shows, Dom. But instead, I never said that. Cut 80.
Who cares? $1 million. I didn't say that.
Just quickly play that one again, will you please, Brian?
Who cares? $1 million. I didn't say that.
And play the other one we played.
I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
Who cares? $1 million. I didn't say that.
Sounds like you did say that.
More Donald Trump speaking about Elizabeth Warren. What would happen, in Trump's opinion, of course, she's giving every indication with this newest DNA test, Dom. That's been the only knock on her. Perhaps she's, you know, I don't know what this is, a false claim of ancestry.
What, perhaps,
but
what,
if it's
the
true,
the story that you heard from your family about having Native American ancestry somehow passed down from generation to generation turns out to not be correct. Somehow she's this terrible lying bitch.
That's basically what they've said. That's been the only knock, as near as I can tell, on Elizabeth Warren, because you can't knock her for where her heart's at or where her politics are at, or, you know, they certainly would try.
Certainly can't knock her out.
But
on the
personally,
campaign
I mean, personally, if the worst you can say is that she's related to a Native American and she told the truth about it and she never benefited from it, unlike Trump, I mean, he is the grand total of what nepotism's like in America, right? He is his father's son. If he weren't the recipient of $500 million in real estate
he is
dollars.
A self-made man, picked himself up by his bootstrap, made it all, became a billionaire on a small loan from his father, which of course he had to pay back.
And lots of
with
tax
interest.
fraud. Lots and lots of estate tax fraud. Let's go. Cut 83 here, if you would. Fancy Brian. Donald Trump talking about Elizabeth Warren. You know, she's the bad one.
I hope that she is running. I do not think she'd be difficult at all. She'll destroy the country. She'll make our country into Venezuela.
Again, Trump, what is your policy on Venezuela? Just curious to know where we stand for our national security.
We haven't
and foreign
invaded
policy
yet. One more. Trump on Elizabeth Warren.
I would just say it doesn't mean we don't have boots on the ground mucking things up, but I digress.
Cut 85, if you would, Fancy Brian.
I don't want to say bad things about her because I hope she would be one of the people that would get through the process. It's going to be a long process for the Democrats.
You don't want to say bad things about her because you want her to get through the process? When has that ever stopped you ever before? You say bad things about everybody except, you know, Kim Jong-un. No way, he does. See, he mocks them like Kim Jong-un, Little Rocket Man, and then he becomes really good friends with them. He mocks everybody.
Ted Cruz is also rolled over like a lapdog. I mean, Ted Cruz, his wife was made fun of by Donald Trump. Ted Cruz's father was accused of being a JFK assassin by Donald Trump, and now Ted Cruz is seeking Donald Trump's endorsement.
If you killed Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, nobody could convict you.
Jeez.
That's back when I kind of liked Lindsey Graham. Dom, any more of this sound we want to get out there? There was more Trump sound. What about this Saudi journalist that was murdered, apparently, Dom, at a Turkish consulate? And MBS, this leader, this Saudi prince that now has galvanized control, you know, apparently he let the women drive.
Oh, he's
but then
he's one of Jared Kushner's big buddies, man.
A bunch of the female activists that push for women to get the right to drive, threw them in jail. So, you know, it's sort of a win some, you lose some with that guy. But Trump, apparently he's spoken to the king. If we could, Fancy Brian, let's play cut 86.
I just spoke with the king of Saudi Arabia, who denies any knowledge of what took place with regard to, as he said, his Saudi Arabian citizen.
So he denied it, strongly denied it. Nothing to see here. I guess the guy's alive now.
Let's keep going. More talks with the king. Cut 87.
The king told me that Turkey and Saudi Arabia are working hand in hand very closely on getting to the bottom of what happened.
Yes, very closely. Cut 90, please, Brian, if you would.
The denial was not only a denial, it was a very firm denial.
Oh.
So we will check it all out. We'll get to the bottom of it.
This coming from the guy who said he had no idea about the Stormy Daniels payoff.
But he's got a new conspiracy theory, and he rolled it out today. Cut 88, if you would, Fancy Brian. Again, this journalist apparently killed by the Saudis. Cut 88.
I don't want to get into his mind, but it sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers. Who knows? We're going to try getting to the bottom of it very soon. But his was a flat denial.
A flat denial, Crudy. A strong denial. Denial. What is Trump's M.O.?
Maybe
Deny.
It's a 400-pound guy
yeah.
on a bed in Jersey.
That's what it is. Now, we did see on the Chiron, CNN was reporting that apparently
Saudi Arabia now acknowledges,
or preparing to acknowledge, that perhaps he died in a interrogation gone wrong.
I heard they might have had iPhone watch video, like the man turned on his watch.
It was his iPhone watch was synced to an iPad or a phone that his girlfriend or fiance had, so the whole thing was recorded.
Here's the takeaway from this segment. A, Trump will spin any conspiracy theory he needs. B, Elizabeth Warren absolutely running for president. You may question the timing. Why'd you roll this out today before the midterms? You know when the presidential primaries are going to start on the Democratic side?
The day after the midterms.
No, I mean debates. Debates by spring of 2019. They're all going to be out there looking for name recognition. And right now, Elizabeth Warren, you know, she's got it. And she can say, stick it in your ear, Donald Trump. I like that about her. Come back with us. Phone lines open and toll free, 844-967-2789.
Pay me my money.
Never, ever.
Where's the money, man? Where's my money?
Never again. I say it. Never again.
Where's the money? Yeah, you like that? That feel good? That feel good?
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on Real Resistance Radio. Tune in Saturdays for Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk with Dr. Tim Slecker, 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the voice of the voiceless, champion of the working class. Earl Ingram's Saturday show is live from 12 to 3 p.m. From 3 to 4, it's State Rep Joe Costa Zamaripa hosting The Joe Costa Show, followed by The Dawn of the Resistance with Maggie Dawn, 4 to 6. Mandatory listening, always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Here's how you get them. If someone invites you for a cocktail, you bring them beer. If someone invites you to dinner, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way.
We don't need to imagine the challenges our state faces. We live them every day. This is former State Representative Mandela Barnes. I'm running to be your next Lieutenant Governor. And whether it's more access to affordable health care, or clean water, or better jobs, or wanting the best schools for our kids, there's only one candidate for governor who will get results: Tony Evers. That's what Tony's done as a teacher and as state superintendent of public schools. I've seen Tony's character and his passion to do what's right for kids. I've seen Tony Evers listen to the concerns and problems of people around the state, and I've worked with him to find solutions to those problems. Isn't that what we need? 8 years is enough of Scott Walker and his failed politics of division. We need a governor who cares about all of us. We need a governor who's concerned about the next generation, not just the next election. It's time for a change. That's why Tony for Wisconsin paid for this ad.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in the former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gostad. Here are your headlines for October 15th. Candidate for governor Tony Evers says he will cut taxes for the middle class by 10% when he becomes governor. Evers plans to pay for the tax cut by reducing the tax breaks for high-income farmers and manufacturers. Senator Tammy Baldwin and challenger Leah Vukmer met in Wausau for their second debate on Saturday night. Among the topics were health care, Brett Kavanaugh, and immigration, which is a big concern for Wisconsin's dairy farmers since many of their employees are immigrants. Vukmer said she wants to help Donald Trump build a wall on the Mexican border. Polls have shown Senator Tammy Baldwin with a lead over Vukmer. And Republican Brad Schimmel and Democrat Josh Kaul met for their second debate in a race for Wisconsin Attorney General. Among topics were voter ID, health care, untested rape kits, arming teachers, and medical marijuana. For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gostad.
Ass, grass, or cash, nobody rides for free. Dom and Crute are the devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, topically, want to get back to Trump and foreign policy for a change. Trump sending Mike Pompeo, immediately to meet the Saudi king over a missing journalist. Dateline Istanbul, the Washington Post, our source. President Trump said Monday that he is sending Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to meet with Saudi King Salman amid the mounting international backlash over missing Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. The kingdom has come under intense scrutiny over the disappearance of Khashoggi, who Turkish investigators believe was killed and dismembered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Speaking to reporters, Trump said he had spoken for around 20 minutes with the Saudi king, who firmly denied any involvement in Khashoggi's disappearance. I don't want to get into his mind, but it sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers.
Yeah, rogue killers in just getting inside the Saudi consulate in Turkey.
Now, doesn't Trump do a lot of business with the Saudis? But anyways, back to the quote. Who knows? We're going to try getting to the bottom of it very soon. But his was a flat denial, he said. Trump said Pompeo would be departing Washington literally within an hour or so and has license to travel wherever necessary. Unlike the Kavanaugh investigation.
Wait, so
including
is Pompeo doing the investigation? I mean, is he bringing a black light?
Trump said Pompeo CSI. Trump said Pompeo would be departing Washington literally within an hour or so and has license to travel wherever necessary, including Turkey, to investigate what happened. Trump first announced Pompeo's trip in a tweet in which he said Saudi Arabia is working closely with Turkey to find answer. Trump also said with Turkey's release of jailed Pastor Andrew Brunson, relations were vastly improved. I have a very good feeling towards Turkey 2 days ago. I did not, but the question becomes, Tom.
Just one more thing.
Little quid pro quo with the Turkish. Today, back to the sound here. Briefly, if you would. Fancy Brian, I know it's here. Cut 84 if you could. Donald Trump addressing this pastor's release. Cut 84.
We had no deal with Turkey. We don't make any deals for hostages or prisoners. But I will tell you that I feel much differently about Turkey today than I felt about them 2 days ago.
So now I will make a deal with them, much like I did with Little Rocket Man.
We'll get to the phones in a moment. 844-967-2789. A few more paragraphs from the Post. Peace. Trump's comments came hours after 3 Turkish officials said Saudi Arabia has agreed to allow Turkish investigators to search the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on Monday, 13 days after Khashoggi, a Saudi journalist, vanished upon entering the mission. 13 days to clean it up.
You think there will be a dumpster full of empty bleach bottles in the back?
Yeah, but no blood here. 2 of the officials said the search could take place as early as Monday afternoon, but by 5 p.m. local time, there were no signs that investigators had entered the mission. Turkey had publicly scolded the Saudi government for refusing repeated requests to search the consulate, where Turkish investigators believe he was killed and dismembered by Saudi agents. Crudy, just a little bit more. Saudi Arabia has vehemently denied, vehemently, very, very much so, Crude. So it must not be
strong
true.
denial, strongest denial.
Any knowledge of Khashoggi's whereabouts. The agreement for a search of the consulate came a day after King Salman called Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, thanking him for welcoming the Saudis' proposal to set up a joint working group to probe the disappearance. Trump floated the rogue killer scenario, prompting ridicule from Democrats. Here's Kriss Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut. Been hearing the ridiculous rogue killer theory was where the Saudis would go with this. Absolutely extraordinary. They were able to enlist the president on behalf of the United States as their PR agent to float it. Khashoggi lived in self-imposed exile in the U.S. for the past year and wrote columns for the Washington Post criticizing the Saudi leadership. He visited the Saudi consulate on October 2nd to obtain documents related to his upcoming wedding, but was never seen leaving. 844-967-2789. Let's get to some callers. Lots of topics. It's Monday. What do you got for us? Mike Stanley, welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sure.
I'm excited about the games tonight. I've been drinking a little bit.
Nothing wrong with a little day drinking, Michael.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Hey, I was just calling because I kind of disagree with you vehemently about like Elizabeth Warren, quote unquote, winning this story. I mean, she's between 0.01% Native American and 1.5% Native American. That's not really Native American.
She's not Native American enough for you, Michael. I've heard this on Rush's show where you listened to Rush and then you turned us on. I mean, so what, man?
I'm actually reading it. So she's not Native American. It's not a win. In fact, if you go to YouTube, I'd be happy to post a link. There's this story where she says that when her parents met and fell in love, her mom was so dark that her dad's parents wouldn't let them marry, so they had to elope. It is absolutely bogus. Even if you give her the most benefit of the doubt and say that she's 1.5%, that would mean her mom is only 3% Native American. That wouldn't be visible.
Well, you're assuming that all comes from one particular side. But Michael, here's the deal. If this is a story that was handed down from her older relatives, and she repeated it, she hasn't gotten any, garnered any advantage to it from my understanding. And apparently...
Oh, don't tell a righty she hasn't benefited from a little affirmative action, though.
And if I listen to Trump didn't put any qualifier on it. To my understanding, if she has any Native American ancestry, he owes her $1 million, Mike.
Where's the money?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm willing to split the baby and say that it's not a disqualifier. In fact, I hope she wins the Democratic nomination. I think it would be an entertaining race, and it would make the last race look like child's play. But I just think it's silly.
You're right. She'd stomp all over his ass.
Argument. I don't think so. She's like arguably less likable than Hillary.
Really?
So, it'd be
come on, Michael. I mean, you're speaking from ass here, man.
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, I know how the Republicans and conservatives really do not like themselves some Clintons. There's history there from Bill going all the way back. But Elizabeth Warren, you think she's on the same level of animosity by the Republicans as Hillary?
She doesn't have a foundation. Let's just start from that premise, Mike. And she's got no Benghazi emails. And as far as I know, she didn't wipe her server.
I think that Kamala Harris scares me. I think that Joe Biden scares me. But Elizabeth Warren, I think, would be a walk in the park.
I just saw the top 4 polling, Mike. I just saw the top 4 polling Democrats right now. Uncle Joe leading the field by a wide margin. 33% would favor Uncle Joe Biden. I think Bernie Sanders was at 13%. Kamala Harris was at 9%. And my favorite, Elizabeth Warren was at 8%. Although I could fall in love with many of those candidates.
Hey, Michael, would you call on President Trump to pay up?
I think he should, just politically. I think it would be a good gesture. But actually, I take that back. I don't think that he
will never pay. You know he'll never pay.
My instincts are right. My instincts are always wrong. That's why I admire him. I think that he does what's right for his party. It might not be conventional, but it'll work for him. But yeah, somebody like me would pay up and try to be gracious, and then we'd get drugged for it. So I think that he'll do the right thing for him and not pay up.
Welching, the only right answer. Michael, thank you for listening. That's the right answer. 844-967-2789. Be like Michael. Who's next? Wisco Paul. Welcome to the big show, Paul. What's your thought?
Hey, as always, thanks for taking my call. And as always, you guys take anybody's call. Elizabeth Warren will kill Trump in an election. I mean, she's Native American, whether he wants to admit it or not. I don't know what the GOP's problem is with women. They don't seem to like women. They scare them. I don't really get the connection there.
Wisco,
I'm scare the GOP.
Well, of course they are, because they're all scared of their mamas. But quite frankly, if the worst they can say about Elizabeth Warren is that her percentage of Native American is insufficient to fully satisfy the hair splitters, I mean, that's the worst they're going to say. The other guy's been accused of sexual assault, tax fraud, and a variety of other crimes, perhaps including collusion with the foreign government. I think she's going to come off looking like a saint by comparison.
Yeah, and you don't have $1 million to pay her either, because the guy is actually broke. You want to hear, or I'll tell you a real evil woman. I don't know. I'm not going to go there, because some GOP will come on and say, hey, Wisco Paul hates women. Well, I don't hate women. Apparently they do, though. They got the Kavanaugh thing, so I don't know. I'm just saying, GOP hates women. Hey, you guys, thanks for taking my call. Later.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it, man.
844-967-2789. I think we got time for a few more here. Let's get Mark from the Sac. Welcome back. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing okay. I got a yellow lab pup just yelling at me right now because I just got him. But I mean,
you're just bragging. You're just bragging about a cute puppy.
Yeah, 6 months old. He's going to be a hunter. So that he was a field trial water trial reject. But he's going to be a good hunting dog. But I mean, as far as the whole how much blood, percentage of blood, on the right there, it was always the old the one drop thing was enough to qualify you as being tainted, as it were, back in the old South. I mean and she was proud of the fact. I mean, it was a family legend that she was she was Indian. I mean what about these people that claim to be Irish because somebody told them that they were Irish? I mean, it's the same. That it's tales your family tells.
Hey, quit. I saw Republicans ripping on Beto O'Rourke, a Irishman trying to be a Hispanic. I think it was Trump Jr. And he comes from the best stock.
But the whole thing is there's a lot of Irish descended people that are in Mexico because there was a lot of deserters from the U.S. military that thought the Mexican War was wrong, so they became Mexican citizens. So it could very well be that. And there's Irish that settled in Texas. I mean, I
know, but we're the melting pot, Mark. I mean, this entire conversation is asinine. It's just another way for this president to be a racist, misogynistic bastard, and he's proven wrong. And the guy needs to shut his frickin' mouth and show up with a duffel bag full of cash to Elizabeth Warren's favorite charity. Period.
Which I would hope is Planned Parenthood.
I mean, we have that on we have it on tape that he said that he was going to do that.
We had an Access Hollywood tape too. The man still got elected, though. You get that point, right, Mark?
Well, I get it, but the point's usually on the top of their heads. But that it is just, I don't know. It's just sad that he's not going to pay up. I mean, and it's par for the course. And Mike might be man enough to pay up on something like that. but he's saying that it's to Trump's advantage not to actually honor his commitment. That's pretty.
Well,
sad.
otherwise he'd come off as weak.
Pretty sad.
Strong and wrong, baby. Strong and wrong. That's why I don't like to pay Dom on bets I lose.
But you do, Crudy. Hey, Mark, Elizabeth Warren tweeted out today. She wants the money to be sent to her favorite nonprofit, which is the NIWRC, a nonprofit organization working to protect Native American women from violence. More than half of all Native women have experienced sexual violence, and the majority of violent crimes against Native Americans are perpetuated by non-natives. Send them your $1 million check, Donald Trump.
$1 million. Come back to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. It's priceless, especially when you participate at 844-967-2789.
Are you suggesting that I'm not who I say I am?
And all you have to do is take a look at WikiLeaks and just see what they said.
Just one more thing.
$1 million.
I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Pay me my money.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Listen to the words of the Reverend Willie Briscoe.
Scripture tells us in Luke 17:3-4, if your brother or sister sins against you, rebuke them, and if they repent, forgive them. Those words are so important to our community because we know that men and women who have served time in jail must be given an opportunity to rebuild their lives. That's why we should be thankful that our Senator, Tammy Baldwin, had sponsored the Ban the Box bill, so when someone seeks a job, they do not have to check a box that says they've been in jail on their initial job application, so they can be judged on their character. And the best way for us to thank Tammy Baldwin is to get out and vote, because sitting on the sidelines is not an option if we care about our community.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, candidate for Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Tammy Baldwin for Senate.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the party line, talk or text, toll free, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I want to get into fiscal policy.
Is that what it is?
You know how I missay the word occasionally. I thought a little
Physical?
Olivia Newton-John would be a nice setup. But before I get to Matt Taibbi at the Rolling Stone, let's get to the phones and our pal Profane Ronnie. Keep it clean, Ronnie.
Hey, Ronnie.
Welcome back. How you been?
Hey, not too bad, not too bad. I'm listening every day, but I never have time to call because I'm just working my tail off.
Well, we appreciate that.
Your keister off.
My keister, yeah. So I'm bummed that you guys already announced what Elizabeth Warren's favorite charity is, because I thought she should divide it between three of them, and I think you're really going to like them. One is Planned Parenthood for a third to the ACLU, and a third to P for PPC.
Yeah, hey, well done.
Roddy is never going to pay anyways.
That check will bounce.
I I just thought that those would be 3 good ones for him to give to. So that's my 2 cents.
You have excellent taste, Ronnie. Thank you for joining us. Let me get this Matt Taibbi piece started. 3 colliding problems leading to a new economic disaster. The Trump crash, perhaps it's coming, Dom. The soaring stock market has been the crux of Donald Trump's argument for the competence of his reign. It might be his favorite tweet subject outside the failing New York Times. Trump on August 18th, longest bull run in the history of stock market. Congratulations, America! Exclamation point. August 24th, our economy is setting records on every front. September 11th, where are the Democrats coming from? The best economy in the history of the country would totally collapse if they ever took control! Exclamation point. But since the market hit an all-time high on October 3rd, Trump has shifted his tweets to other subjects. This makes sense. Given that it took a nasty dive. The worst was a 2-day sell-off in the middle of last week, during which the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1,377 points. That's got to sting a little. On Friday, the Dow opened with a big round of buying, then plunged again, then wobbled all day before finally ending up 287 points. This allowed the financial world to spend the weekend relief boozing instead of planning for the end. Maybe the stock market isn't about to crash in the next 10 minutes. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be scared to our marrow over the future. The sell-off last week was likely just a mild preview of what will happen once the blunt contradictions of Trump's major economic moves, crazy even by his standards, set in. We're aftermarket analyst friend of mine put it this weekend. You know, I gave the FCC compliant version. It's all baked into the cake already. You don't have to be a financial expert to see the irreconcilability of these 3 problems. Tom, why don't you get us started? What
Number 1.
The problems.
Under Trump, Fed tightening. Number 1, under Trump, the Federal Reserve is trying to end a decade-long party. Massive programs of money printing and low to zero interest rate lending were implemented to keep markets moving after the 2008 disaster. Terms like unlimited liquidity began to catch on to describe the level of central bank support the financial world could expect in the post-crash universe. Programs like quantitative easing in the U.S. and analogs in Europe and Japan had central banks pumping an extra $12 trillion or more into the economy over the past decade. The cash was supposed to trickle down to the rest of us in the form of real-world investment, but the vast sums of free money pumped into the economy produced dependably unimpressive economic growth overall, prompting headlines like $12 trillion for this? Who benefited instead? You may be surprised to learn it was the financial sector. QE and ZIRP, which is zero interest rate policy, allowed big companies to borrow recklessly and gorge themselves on buybacks of their own stocks, which had the twin consequence of driving down bond prices and sending the stock market soaring. The central banks of the world are finally trying to end the madness. The Fed is taking about $50 billion out of the economy every month and now raising rates not just above zero, but close and perhaps even beyond neutral. The free money era is over. Once the European and Japanese central banks follow suit, the net effect worldwide will go from easing to quantitative tightening in 2019. Trump must be cursing his bad luck. After 10 years of Fed policy that turbocharged bank sector profits and defined austerity as a thing for poor people, he's now got a terminally cherry Fed chief in Jerome Powell who keeps insisting the economy is finally healthy enough to start reintroducing the concept of pain to Wall Street. A wide range of data supports a positive view, Powell said earlier this month following a rate hike. After last week's sell-off, Wall Street analysts whined and pointed the finger at Powell, implying he was causing this mess by cutting off the magic money tap too early. The current dip in confidence can be allayed were the Federal Reserve to signal it's easing off the quantitative tightening and rate risers. Jasper Lawler, a research head at London Capital Group, wrote it during the plunge last Thursday. Trump agrees he's ripping the Fed for raising interest rates, as in, why do we have to come back to earth now? Quote, I don't want to slow it down even a little bit, especially when we don't have the problem of inflation, Trump said last week. If the Fed turns off the rocket boosters entirely, he's in trouble, Crudy, because...
Number 2, Trump's tax cut depends on monster growth. When Republicans rammed through the administration's tax cut package, more than a few analysts warned that the cuts were based on too rosy projections of economic growth. Groups like the Tax Policy Center warned Trump's tax cuts would drive new activity at first, but the impact would be blunted in later years by rising deficits, forcing more federal borrowing. A year later, the Trump administration has indeed had to sharply increase the scale of federal borrowing in order to cover the shortfall in expected tax revenue, the highest deficit quarter since 2010.
Hey,
Most
fiscal
recently,
conservatives, what do you think about that?
Few noticed when the Trump Treasury borrowing $488 billion in the first quarter of this year, beating the record of $483 billion set the first quarter of 2010 when the economy was still recovering from a crash. There was talk that the Treasury would roughly quadruple the number of T-bills issued in 2018 versus 17. If you're wondering where all those deficit hawks in the Trump White House, like Mac, bring on the default Mulvaney in the Republican Party like Paul, it would take me a long time to go through all the math. Ryan, where they were when the national debt shot past $21 trillion for the first time last year? That's a good question. This is part of the reason Trump wants Fed rates lower. He doesn't want to have to pay interest on the giant sums he will inevitably have to borrow to pay for his tax cuts. Idiotic tax cuts, as they're described here. I think the Fed has gone crazy, he seemed, adding, they seem to like raising interest rates when we could do other things with the money. Rising interest rates also help Trump's own bottom line. Oh, pardon me. It hurts Trump's bottom line. The press supposedly owes more than $300 million to Deutsche Bank, and interest payments there go up or down in accordance with federal policy on paying interest at a high rate because of the Fed, he admitted.
Aww.
It should be noted that even presidents whose personal fortunes are not massively affected by the Fed policy have traditionally stayed mum about the central bank's moves. Trump's comments broke 2 decades of presidential silence about Fed policy, so we have a Fed tightening colliding with a ballooning public borrowing need. Awesome! To this, we add a third factor, which is the Trump tariffs. And we'll spare you the rest of Taibbi's piece. Donald Trump's about to blow up the economy. Maybe not this week, but it's coming. And it's coming bad. More Devil's Advocates. You want us bad. Coming back, hour 2 with you on the phones, 844-967-2789.
Keep America great! Exclamation point.
I don't give a f. Pay me my money.
Ever worry that the anonymous millionaires are setting the agenda for our community with little or no accountability? I do. That's why I joined Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. My fellow members and I want to build a powerful and lasting progressive movement. Together, we can help determine the agenda in our own communities. Then we work with professional organizers and a team of leading strategists to make that agenda happen. We're working on health care, economic justice, child poverty, electing progressive candidates, and more. And our Radio Active campaign supports this station and the Resistance Radio Network. So, won't you come help us build a movement?
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwi.org.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Plan gone wrong. So much damage. I'm Mike Moss. CNN reports Saudi Arabia will admit that it's responsible for the murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi embassy in Istanbul. Correspondent Clarissa Ward is in Turkey.
They are preparing to acknowledge that Jamal Khashoggi was indeed killed in the consulate in a kind of botched operation. An interrogation went wrong. The idea had been primarily to abduct him from Turkey, presumably to take him back to the kingdom.
President Trump says he awaits the Saudi report and will take a close look at it. The president and first lady have been surveying the devastation caused by Hurricane Michael.
We are doing more than anybody would have ever done. And probably there hasn't been hits like this, certainly not very often. They say 50 years ago, there was one that had this kind of power. 50 years ago, that's a long time. But we're helping the people, and we will always help the people. We're helping you, great governor.
Correspondent Scott McLean on the many still missing from Michael.
The search and rescue crews, they've been going through doing an initial search, then a more detailed search after that. Now they're on sort of their last search, and it involves those cadaver dogs. At last count, there were up to 30, maybe 35 people who were still unaccounted for, though that doesn't necessarily mean that they believe that they're going to find 30 bodies. They just haven't been able to find those people. They figured that a lot of people have left.
The federal budget deficit has jumped 17% in the last year. The Trump administration says spending surged, while revenue from the new tax cuts only increased slightly. The deficit hit $779 billion for fiscal 2018. A former Senate Intelligence Committee employee has pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. James Wolfe was the longtime director of security for the committee. On Wall Street, up and down, with the Dow closing down 89, S&P down 16.
JWK Management has many apartments available on the east side of Milwaukee. Currently, there's an opening just above Campali Restaurant overlooking historic Brady Street. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath with 1,500 square feet, a large kitchen, pantry, and main living space. Free washer and dryer in the building, and off-street parking is available. For more information, call 608-729-1810. For your new apartment, call 608-729-1810.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009. Or visit cclmanagement.com today.
Of hiring sites with over 1,000 reviews.
A number of drug makers say they will disclose the prices they charge for products advertised on television. Correspondent John Stolness reports.
When you see an ad on TV for a new drug, the cost is always unknown. Now, however, dozens of drug makers will start disclosing the prices of U.S. prescription drugs that are advertised on TV. The prices will not be shown in those commercials. Instead, the ad will show a website where the price is listed. The move came a few hours before a speech by Alex Azar, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, in which he was set to announce a proposal that would require prices to be named in the ads. Azar said this announcement from an industry trade group was a small step in the right direction, but that the government's plan will go further. I'm John Stolness.
Republicans have begun to concede defeat in the evolving fight for majority of the House. The party's candidates may not go quietly, but the GOP's most powerful players are now keeping the money with the candidates likely to.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Live via phone, he is former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel.
Firing Bob Mueller doesn't mean that the prosecution, the investigation goes away. Pardoning one individual does not mean that you undo everything that has been done before. So this notion that somehow by shutting down and by pardoning and by sort of stopping the process, you're also stopping the wheels of justice is simply, again, it's simply wrong.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 a.m. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Candidate for governor Tony Evers says he will cut taxes for the middle class by 10% when he becomes governor. Evers plans to pay for the tax cut by reducing the tax breaks for high-income farmers and manufacturers. The tax cut would apply to people who make up to $100,000 annually or families who make up to $150,000. According to Evers' plan, farmers and manufacturers would still get a tax break for their first $300,000, but not for income over that amount. Monday, mostly sunny, highs in the mid-40s. Tonight, mostly clear, lows in the mid-30s. Tuesday, mostly sunny and breezy, highs in the mid-50s. Wednesday, sunny and windy, highs in the mid-40s. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gostad.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome back, hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates radio show. My good little buddy, you know I make the commute often in from Madison, and today I noticed some new signs out in the farmers' fields.
Yeah, the big political signs?
Yes, and these were specifically staggered, so as one read them, something to the effect, I paraphrase, Tony Evers will raise your taxes. I mean, that's been a big theme. Of course, Scott Walker's got nothing more to run on. That I cut taxes. $8 billion, which might be true, mostly at the expense of school children and the roads in the state of Wisconsin. But Tony Evers, Dom, came up with a big proposal and caught a lot of headlines this weekend. Two can play at that game. Tony's got what? Santa Claus tax cuts for the middle class.
From the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Patrick Marley, Democrat Tony Evers pledged to cut income taxes for the middle class by 10% Sunday if he is elected governor, paying for his plan by rolling back a tax credit for manufacturers and farmers.
I'm all down for that.
He floated the idea after Walker's spent weeks contending Evers would raise a host of taxes. Evers said he would consider raising the gas tax and left open the possibility he would hike others. Here's a quote from Evers. Too many Wisconsin families have been working multiple jobs while facing stagnant wages, soaring health care costs, and no solution to student loan debt. They deserve better. Middle-class Wisconsin families deserves a tax code that puts them first.
Well, here in Wisconsin, Dom, working consumers are the first ones to pay taxes, and oftentimes the only ones.
Right. The suckers. The Wisconsin State Journal first reported on Evers' income tax plan. Under it, Evers would use his first state budget to scale back income taxes by 10% for individuals who make up to about $100,000 a year and families who make up to about $150,000 a year, according to his campaign. The plan would provide about $340 million in tax relief. To cover much of it, Evers would scale back the manufacturing and agriculture tax credit by nearly $300 million. That credit, which has effectively wiped out the state income tax liabilities of manufacturers and agricultural operations, would see its value reduced from about $334 million to about $40 million. Under Evers' plan, farmers and manufacturers could claim a credit on for the first $300,000 in income, but not for income above that. That arrangement is meant to protect small farmers and small businesses while greatly reducing the tax break for large businesses.
Well, I will grin and bear it, Tom. I'm not a manufacturer or an agribusiness operation, but I'd be okay if the cap was $300,000. But of course, it's not. Walker spokesman Austin Altenberg emphasized that Evers has shown a willingness to raise taxes. Here's how he responded to Evers' tax cut proposal. Madison liberal Tony Evers is actively campaigning on an agenda that will raise property taxes, income taxes on farmers and small businesses, and gas taxes by as much as $1, although no one's ever said that. And hardworking families won't be fooled by last-minute media stunts attempting to erase this fact, Altenberg said in a statement. Dom, I got a little piece here. UrbanMilwaukee.com. Tamarin Cornelius, Wisconsin Budget Project. 6 reasons to end the manufacturing credit. Now, that's what Tony Evers is effectively advocating for. That's what we should all be advocating for. It's not fair. Manufacturers need to pay their fair share. Think of Kimberly-Clark. $1 in taxation for 4 years? A highly profitable business that now seeks up to $100 million in incentives not to close a factory? I mean, are you freaking kidding me? The rest of us, cumulatively, you, I, Fancy Brian, we all pay more in taxes than Kimberly-Clark has in the state of Wisconsin. Every working schlub at McDonald's pays more. Where's the equity? Well, instead, Scott Walker picks winners and losers, and primarily the winners are his campaign contributors.
See how nice and easy that is?
It nearly rhymes. Wisconsin lawmakers, back to the Urban Milwaukee piece, Wisconsin lawmakers should eliminate a recent tax credit that allows manufacturers and some other businesses to pay next to nothing in income taxes, has ballooned far beyond the original cost estimates, and has done little to promote job creation. Here are the 6 reasons the manufacturer and agribusiness credit is a poor use of public resources. Number 1, it strips resources from important public priorities that are vital to the economic well-being of businesses and families. Businesses and families in Wisconsin both need the same things in order to thrive. Safe communities, a solid transportation network, excellent public schools, accessible healthcare, and affordable higher education. These priorities require the investment of public resources, investments that are threatened when we redirect resources that should broadly benefit everyone in Wisconsin and instead funnel those resources into the pockets of a few wealthy, well-connected individuals and businesses. The manufacturer credit has reduced public revenues by $1.4 billion since 2013, costing $334 million in fiscal year 2019 alone. That's money that should have gone to building on the progress Wisconsin has made in improving access to health insurance, working to reduce the need for juvenile correction facilities, and making higher education affordable for all Wisconsin residents. Instead, those resources were channeled to a select few, or only about 3 out of every 1,000 individual income tax filers received the credit, Dom.
Number 2, Crudy, it's a windfall for a select few. The manufacturing credit is stacked in favor of giving extremely large tax cuts to the very highest earners, virtually shutting out everyone else. How tilted is the credit? Most of the tax credit was paid out to millionaires. Tax filers with incomes of at least $1 million make up just 0.2% of Wisconsin tax filers, but they claimed 76% of the credit in 2017.
So if I heard that correctly, 0.2% of Wisconsin taxpayers, millionaires, got 76% of a $334 million annual tax credit.
Correct.
At least the right people got it, right, Walker?
76%. Oh, and now the total of that tax credit to date, $1.4 billion. Another way of looking at how tilted the credit is in favor of the very rich, in 2017, there were 11 tax filers who claimed the credit, each of which had incomes of $30 million or more. Those 11 tax filers got an average tax cut of $2 million each. In contrast, just 7% of the credit went to filers earning less than $250,000.
Number 3, it requires no job creation. Companies do not need to create new jobs to claim the credit. Even manufacturers that lay off workers, send jobs overseas, and close factories can receive the credit. Just go ask Kimberly-Clark, right? In the wake of the enactment of the credit, the number of manufacturing jobs in Wisconsin has grown more slowly than the national average, and so has the average manufacturing wage. There are many factors that play into those trends, but it's clear that Wisconsin is not keeping up with the national growth in manufacturing. Between March of 2013 and March of 2018, the number of manufacturing jobs in Wisconsin grew by 4%, below, I'm assuming that's the national average, of 5.2%. So what, we're trailing by almost 20% the national average? Wisconsin's average annual pay in manufacturing jobs grew by 1.5% over that period after adjusting for inflation, compared to 3.6% in average pay growth at the national level.
Wow.
Manufacturing workers in Wisconsin earn $9,800 less a year than the national average for manufacturing jobs. Thank God we're throwing $1 billion at this problem every 3 years.
Number 4, Crudy, is costing more than double what lawmakers thought it would. Shocking. The cost of the credit has swelled far beyond the amount that lawmakers anticipated when they passed the tax break for a cost overrun of nearly $800 million over 7 years. $800 million overrun.
That's just the overrun.
And how does anybody who has an $800 million overrun still have a job?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Scott Walker and Dale Coenga.
When lawmakers passed the tax break, the original estimate was that the tax credit would cost $617 million over 7 years. More recent estimates show the cost of the credit has ballooned far beyond its original expectations, reducing public revenues by $1.4 billion between 2013 and 19, more than double what the cost of the credit was originally predicted to be. That means state legislatures could cut the credit in half and still give manufacturers a bigger tax cut than was originally intended.
Dom, it picks winners and losers among Wisconsin industries. All Wisconsin businesses depend on public investments in roads, the workforce, and communities to thrive. But manufacturers get a special exemption for paying their fair share for the cost of these public investments. The manufacturing credit means that manufacturers pay next to nothing in state income tax, the biggest source of revenue for important public services. In fact, a recent investigation showed that Kimberly-Clark paid an average of 25 cents, that's a quarter dime, a year in state income tax over the last 4 years, for which figures are available. Kimberly-Clark pays, call it zero dime. Wouldn't plug the meter and get me half an hour. The manufacturing sector is an important part of Wisconsin's economy, but that doesn't mean that they should get a pass on paying for the public services the business needs. Giving them a special tax break gives manufacturers an advantage over similarly situated businesses in other sectors of the state economy. Think bootstrap little radio station owners.
And finally, Crudy, number 6, it's misleadingly named as it mostly bypasses farms. While both manufacturers and agricultural producers can receive the credit, the bulk of the tax goes to the manufacturers. In the past, about 5 out of every $6 of the credit has gone to tax cuts for manufacturing businesses rather than to farmers. That means that Wisconsin farmers are mostly left out of this credit, even though the name of the credit includes both industries. The manufacturing and agricultural credit is set up in a way that allows individuals and corporations to receive very large tax breaks without creating a single new job. If state lawmakers want to take a more effective approach to helping Wisconsin businesses thrive and hire more workers, they should take the tax revenue lost to the credit and instead use it to make meaningful investments in the state's workforce, transportation infrastructure, and higher education system.
Or give them a tax cut for the middle class, as Tony Evers has proposed. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Your calls always welcome here at 844-967-2789. Got some fine guests later in the show, including author Joe Feldman, Grading for Equity. And we got a fine Dem Senate candidate. She is Kriss Marion, going against Howard Marklein, Wisconsin Senate District 17. She is quoted in the New York Times. Dom, I think we should go there soon or next. Come back with us. More Devils on Real Resistance Radio.
Our economy's on fire.
Guess what? Who are the suckers?
Hey everyone, it's your nominee for Lieutenant Governor, Mandela Barnes. I know I don't need to tell you what's at stake with this election, but I want to talk to you about my friend and running mate, Tony Evers. Now, I've gotten to know Tony over the last couple months as we've crisscrossed the state. I've seen his resolve and his dedication to solving the problems Wisconsin faces, especially when it comes to access to quality, affordable health care, protecting our environment, and making sure that every kid in Wisconsin has a great public school, regardless of their zip code. But Tony and I can't win this election alone. We need your help to talk to those that might still be on the fence. So whatever you can do will help. Knock on doors, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family. When we're fighting to take back the state from Scott Walker and the special interests, every little bit helps. You can make the difference in this election. So visit TonyEvers.com and sign up to help. It's time for a change. And that's why Tony for Wisconsin paid for this ad.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only ordering classic corner tavern.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube, Facebook. We'll get that back up in a moment, of course, on Twitter at Devil Radio, the party line, on the phones, talk or text, 844-967-2789.
Why doesn't Facebook like us anymore?
I don't know. It's like, you're not logged in? Yeah, we're logged in. We've been doing this the whole time. Facebook.
Come on, Facebook.
Mark! Let's get to some callers. Tony from Portland. Hey, Tony, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. Happy Monday, man. What do you got?
Hey, happy Monday to you guys, too. I was calling about that idiot Mike Stanley, which is funny because his last name is Stanley. It seems, I don't think he understands. I don't understand how these Republicans don't see that. I don't remember any time in our past where we capitulated to dictators, where we stood next to a thug like Putin and said, oh, no, he said no, I didn't do it. And now he's standing next to this autocrat in Saudi Arabia and saying the same thing. I mean, if Obama did this, Mike would be in the hospital right now suffering from an aneurysm that he had.
Tony,
and I just don't get it. I don't
of course, because Donald Trump wants his own strong denials to be taken on face value because he has lots to deny.
Right.
I mean, I think it's simple math, but what do you think?
I think Mike is a pulsating Richard. That's what I think.
Yeah, well,
and if you want to, the other tax that Kimberly Clark isn't paying is the destruction they've done to the Fox River, along with Tilmany and James River. You cannot eat two-headed carp in the Fox River anymore because of Kimberly Clark.
Yeah, I saw a movie once. Appreciate your call, Tony. I saw a movie once upon a time. I think it was called Deliverance. I know there's also another movie called Deliverance, but this one was about like methyl mercury getting in the water and the fish getting big and the bears getting big. And, you know, it was just sort of a post-apocalyptic America.
Got a deal pretty mouth, ain't he?
Only it was specifically at like one lake in the woods because some paper industry corporation was dumping mercury.
All polluted,
yeah, dumping mercury in the water.
Well, yeah, you know, I grew up in the Fox Valley, man. That Fox River, the PCBs, I mean, it's still an issue even to this day.
Well, that explains, perhaps, you. Let's jump to the New York Times. Democrats want to beat Scott Walker, but Wisconsin economy is a hurdle, or so it's written by Monica Davey and Nelson Schwartz. The city's downtown was all but empty on a recent Sunday afternoon. Dateline were seen. But one storefront office was so packed with Democrats that people had to wait outside. One by one, the party's top Wisconsin candidates took the microphone and fixated on a single villain, a Republican who drew cheers from the campaign volunteers preparing to make calls and walk door to door with clipboards. and pleas for votes. The target? Not Trump, who drew only passing mention. It was Scott Walker, the state's governor. His 8 years in office are the Democrats' greatest weapon this fall, even as his economic record has become their greatest complication. 40 days is not enough to talk about all the awful things Scott Walker's done wrong. Mandela Barnes, the Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor, called out. Randy Bryce, a mustachioed former ironworker who hopes to seize the seat that House Speaker Paul Ryan is leaving, mocked the Scott holes that he said plague Wisconsin's roads. And Tony Evers, and I'm quoting here, don't blame it on Crudy, a grandfatherly-looking state school superintendent who is running against Mr. Walker, said that it was high time they hold the governor accountable for cuts to schools, rising healthcare costs, and the state economy that may look dazzling in the headlines, but Mr. Evers says doesn't always feel that way to the residents. Wisconsin, which has not picked a Republican for president since 1984, shocked the country in 2016 by backing Donald Trump. In hindsight, it shouldn't have been such a surprise. Mr. Walker and the Republican-controlled legislature were reelected in 2014 after slashing taxes, and many Republicans, independents, and even some fiscally minded Democrats saw benefit in a firmer line on the size and cost of government, not to mention lower taxes. But now there's a rising debate over whether the state needs more than Mr. Walker's unbending rectitude. Yeah, he's a rectitude. One question for Democrats is whether they can successfully make an economic argument at a time when Wisconsin's economic indicators are strong. By most metrics, Wisconsin economy is doing well at 3%. The state's unemployment rate is well below the national average at 3.7%. And Dom, I'm going to jump ahead here. Oh, well, no, you, please. I know you argued with the author of this piece.
Well, we're not going to get to that part. I do want to say this piece mentions Kriss Marion, an organic vegetable farmer and Democrat who is running for a Wisconsin State Senate seat that Democrats have targeted as one they might flip, said the president's name rarely comes up when she's knocking doors in small towns and rural rolling hills near her Senate district, which Trump won in 2016. Kriss Marion said this, "I would never bring that up. I think it's a distraction." Well, we're going to bring it up with Kriss Marion at 5 o'clock in the happy hour. She's going to join the Devil's Advocate. So we're going to talk about this particular piece in the New York Times.
Well, we've got another fine guest in the short term. His name, Joe Feldman. He is an author. The book, Grading for Equity. He joins us next live via phone. You are listening to the Devil's Advocates on Real Resistance Radio. We come back with author Joe Feldman.
Hey, you want to get high, man?
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Looking for a job worth talking about? Teaching is creative, collaborative, and intellectually challenging. See why teachers have better work stories at teachdfw.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Hey, everybody. If Scott Walker were made of cheese, would you eat him? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. That's why I listen to Real Resistance Radio.
Hi, this is Demi, pharmacist at Hyatt, locally owned pharmacy in the community of Milwaukee. Simplifying lives, one prescription at a time is our goal. Do free delivery of your medications to your home and at work. All your meds are brought together in one convenient dosage package individualized to your medication needs. We set up a house call with a licensed pharmacist to assist with medication management. We accept all insurance plans. To learn more about Hyatt, visit our website, HAYATRX.com.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
The Earl Ingram Show. Join me at a new time, weekday mornings, for the Earl Ingram Show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Real Resistance Radio, Monday through Friday, and as always, Saturdays noon to 3. The Earl Ingram Show, streaming live at realresistanceradio.com. Don't miss it. Voice of the voiceless, champion of the working class, the Earl Ingram Show.
I'll tell you what's going on.
For Real Resistant Radio, my name is Keith Gostad. The election is 3 weeks from tomorrow. To find information on voting, go to myvote.wi.gov. The city of Milwaukee is looking for people to work at the polls on Election Day. For more information, go to city.milwaukee.gov/helpmilwaukeevote. It's a big week for the new Pfizer Forum. The home of the Bucks will host concerts by Metallica, the Foo Fighters, the Eagles, and 21 Pilots, as well as the Bucks home opener on Friday night. The show will go on at Shorewood High School. To Kill a Mockingbird will be staged for one performance on Wednesday evening. The Brewers and Dodgers play Game 3 of the NLCS tonight in Los Angeles. That series is tied at 1 game apiece. And the Packers will host the 49ers at Lambeau Field tonight. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gostad.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, we welcome a fine guest, a author. His name, Joe Feldman. The book is called Grading for Equity. Joe, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you, Joe.
Joe, I got to tell you a brief little story, and we try to put an emphasis on education right here on Resistance Radio. We do a education-specific show on Saturdays, Busted Pencils, with Dr. Tim Slecker. He is a dean of education. We just did a live event this past weekend. So you're talking hopefully to the right guys, but I got to tell you, Joe, as a young student in grade school, I used to get bad grades in conduct all the time. Like my behavior was somehow worse than the other students, and I didn't find that to be the case, Joe. And I often tried really, really hard to be a good boy, and I'd get like a C in conduct, and that was below average. Sir, it didn't feel equitable to me. It was almost like the teachers had it out for me. Does this little story I tell have anything to do with grading for equity, sir?
Yeah, that's exactly what this is talking about. It's when teachers grade students based on things that have very little to do with what they've learned and just based on the teacher's subjective impression of how they behave. You know, for 20 years, I was a teacher and a principal and a district administrator, and it always nagged at me that you could have two teachers. Sometimes they'd be right next to each other in a school. They'd both teach the same class, maybe ninth grade algebra or something, and they'd be next to each other in the school. They'd have the same textbook, the same training. The students would be similar, and one teacher would have 20% of their kids failing the class, and the other teacher would have 50% failing. And there was nothing different except they were grading differently. And we know that's not right. Grades should reflect what a student knows, not how the individual teacher grades them based on the subjective interpreted behaviors or all other kinds of idiosyncratic choices. But the problem is that teachers never get any training in how to grade. And so most of them do it the way that they've been graded. And this has been this type of grading that we've had, it's been around since the Industrial Revolution, and it's time for a change.
Now, Joe, some of the kids in school would do extra credit or they'd get their exam back and they'd go talk to the teacher and say, come on, Mr. Pelzowitz, I meant to get that one correct. And in fact, I remember there were some pretty girls in my sophomore geometry class. They could go up there and essentially have the teacher spit out the test for them if they just asked the right question, sir. It seems as if differing teachers allow you to sort of change your grade after the fact. Well, I was never that industrious, sir. I never went back and corrected my incorrect answers. And it seemed like some advanced, although I felt myself the better student.
Yeah, and that's one example of some of the inequities that happen. And there are others that are more profound that, when we grade students on things that may be outside their control. So extra credit's a great example. So some students come from families where the family can take their kid to the local community theater when they're doing an adaptation of the play or do some other kind of extra credit, whereas other kids come from families that they can't afford to do those things. And so you start building in disparities inadvertently into your grading system that rewards kids.
Sir.
Yeah, so I spent about 5 years researching and working with teachers in schools to identify what teachers were doing and why it's inequitable, and seeing things that teachers were using mathematically unsound calculations and they use biased criteria and doing things that even demotivate students. And so we developed some better ways that teachers could grade that would be much more fair and much more mathematically accurate and motivate kids. And the problem is that there's so much at stake. We know that grades so heavily influence how kids think of themselves and their capacity for success. And we know that a lot of high-stakes decisions are made about students by their grades, whether they're placed in advanced classes or regular remedial, or whether they graduate, or whether they can play on the athletic field. Even car insurance rates can be affected by the grades kids get.
Right.
And so we know that we need to take a harder look at grading, but it's just like the plumbing in schools. It's not a very sexy thing, but it's something that's so profound and interwoven into everything teachers do. And so what we did is when we tried these new practices, some of which were not including extra credit and some are not relying so much on points to motivate kids, we found that not only did kids perform better, but we also saw that the accuracy of the grade was better. It started to correlate, the grade that a teacher gave started to correlate more strongly with their standardized test score. And although I'm not always a huge fan of standardized tests, I would rather have the grade be closer to the score on the test than farther away.
Well, Joe, you take me perfectly to where I want to go next. Our teaching experts, Dr. Tim Slecker, would push back mightily about standardized testing, say, we now have educators that are effectively teaching to the test and that the test is not reflective of what a child actually may learn. Between the Common Core, which became Obama Core, right here in the state of Wisconsin, Joe, I think we've changed the testing mechanism 2 or 3 times. What's your thought? Ultimately, I understand there might be a grading bias, but there are some that are going to say there's a testing bias.
Yeah, and there are both. And I think the best way to think of tests, standardized tests, as a way to triangulate. So it's not the end-all, be-all of how to describe what students know. But if we're going to rely on grades for so many things, it's a helpful piece of information to get, because we know that there's a lot of inconsistency with the way teachers grade, and if that inconsistency can be ironed out a little more and not reward students for subjective ideas, for subjective behaviors, and be much more about what kids know, I think we'll be a lot better off and start to make a lot more headway with the achievement gap.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. That's Joe Feldman. He's an author, a current book, Grading for Equity. He joins us on the phone. Joe, you talked about subjective impressions. I had a couple I wanted to throw by you. What's your thought on participation?
Yeah, so that's a perfect example of where oftentimes when a teacher grades a student on participation, I understand why they want to do it. They want to motivate the student. They want them to participate because they think that they'll learn more. But unfortunately, what that does is the teacher really projects an impression of what participation looks like to her or to him, or what they do when they participate, and then they evaluate a student based on that. So many teachers are extroverts, for example, and so they reward the student who raises their hand and speaks out a lot and volunteers a lot, even though the introvert may learn just as much and maybe even more than the extrovert, but they're basing it on this subjective impression.
Another one that may not be subjective, you can't quantify it, attendance. And this one got to me, Joe. I mean, I was the farthest kid out in a private high school. I work on the farm in the morning, at my neighbor's farm, and sometimes I just wouldn't go to school. I literally had to have a conversation with the dean of students upon nearing graduation. I was pulling about a B average. Like, we don't know if we're going to let you graduate. You missed too many days of school. I always found this, and especially, let alone high school, but especially in college as adults, when we're actually paying for these courses, for a teacher to come out and say, hey, attendance is mandatory, or we're going to grade you on attendance. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think participation is important. I think attendance is important. But I think there are other ways to handle the issue than to include it in the way we grade a student.
Yeah.
So in that example, we can certainly have phone calls, we can have conversations, we can try and do all kinds of things. But when you start including all that non-academic stuff into a grade, it starts warping the accuracy of it, and grades don't mean anything once they have to include everything.
So what's the answer, Joe? I mean, I was a solid C+ student, but I was, much better at standardized testing and eventually made my way through college. But I'm not quite clear what would be the fairest way to measure a guy like me or any student. Joe, what's your recommendation? How should we, as educators, or how should educators best quantify learning?
Well, I think, first of all, it's being clear on what is the standards that are being taught in the class. So the Common Core can help with that, but teachers can also create their own with their colleagues and with schools. So if we know all the things that kids are supposed to be able to know and do by the end of a course, then what we should be doing is grading on their progress on those academic standards. And we can assess those in lots of different ways. We can, give a test or a quiz or take a standardized test, but all we're trying to describe is we were supposed to teach X to them, or they were supposed to learn X. How much have they learned of X, and how well are they doing? And really, I think this is bigger than just teachers. I think parents, because they were brought up in this system, they don't recognize that there could be another way to do it. And if they can understand, oh, actually, my child shouldn't be graded on how they behave, it's a lot more fair and accurate to look at if they're graded on what they know, then I think they can play a much bigger role in helping teachers and partnering with schools to push this conversation.
Joe Feldman, author of Grading for Equity, how have educators responded to your new book, sir?
Well, because grading is such I like to call it the last island of autonomy for teachers. We've really put so many mandates on them and so many expectations and taken a lot away from them that this is really the last place they have to go where they can make every decision around it. And so they hold on to it very tightly, and I totally get that, and I was the same way when I was a teacher. But once they get the opportunity to start learning that, oh, actually the way we're graded was from the Industrial Revolution when we were trying to sort kids and we were trying to keep certain kids out of the business world and keep them in the factory workers, it just starts to open their eyes and they get really excited, like, finally somebody is talking to me about this. I've never had the chance. So there's some initial resistance and usually a lot of emotions. And then when they start trying these things out, they love it, and they wish they would have had this, 10, 20 years ago when they started teaching.
Well, you talk about the last autonomy of the teacher. I would say perhaps the last arbitrary decision-making aspect of the teacher. I'm going to tell you one last story, sir. I had a high school social studies teacher that told the class very early in the academic year, well, when I grade your papers, I'm going to do so erroneously, and if you don't bring them back to me and call out my error, then I'm just going to assume you got it wrong. And I took great issue with that. So, Joe, tell me, how wrong was Mr. Wallin for doing such a mean thing to students like myself?
Well, I mean, I think we all have stories of the teacher who did something that we just didn't feel was right. And it's really an opening to a conversation around how do we help not have grading be idiosyncratic and not being so sort of hard for kids to get a handle on it, and not so much an issue of the teacher has control and the kid's just subjected to whatever grade they get. This is about being a lot more transparent with how you get the grade you want, being a lot more open, having teachers be on the same page with it, and really trying to get every kid the opportunity, regardless of their background or how they behave or how the teacher expects them to look or act, and to make it fair for everybody.
Author Joe Feldman, Grading for Equity. We appreciate you joining us, students from the back of the class, Joe. If people would like to buy your new book, where can they do so, sir?
They can go on Amazon. It's Grading for Equity, and there's also a website that has some other resources, gradingforequity.org.
Author Joe Feldman, thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Thanks. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates, going to take you to school each and every day right here. Join us on the phones. Your contribution's welcome. Raise your hand.
I'm grading you right now, Crudy. It's not going well.
Yeah, you're breaking the curve on the low side. Someone's got to be the anchor. 844-967-2789. Phone calls appreciated and toll free here.
I'm learning to fly.
I went to better schools than they did. I was a better student than they were.
If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that learning things never taught me nothing, and books is the worst.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's three big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on enemy anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Tune in to Real Resistance Radio. Start your weekday off with the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's The Forum with Sherwin Hughes from 8 to 11. Then from 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's the Brian Kelly Show. Then from 3 to 6, it's the Devil's Advocates. Mandatory listening. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube and Facebook. It's up and running, at least for now. And, of course, on Twitter at Devil Radio. The party line always open for you fine folks at 844-967-2789.
We will get you not only through the night, we'll get you through the Walker administration and eventually the Trump administration. Want to thank our last fine guest, Joe Feldman, author, Grading for Equity.
Attendance required.
Apparently. Tammy Baldwin and Leah Buchmer, your girl, had a debate this weekend. Tammy Baldwin bragged that she has a fine attendance record for senatorial votes.
Really?
Well, that's what Tammy said.
You'd never know that listening to Leah. Leah.
She's not working for Wisconsin. Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
We've got some sound from this debate.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, little skosh.
Of a flavor. I was actually up north by my mom's with my brother and sister.
Up north there, hey?
Up north there, hey. And I was unplugged for a couple of days. And there was a lot going on, man, between the Attorney General, state of Wisconsin debate, and then he snuck another one here between Tammy and Leah.
But we still haven't had the big enchilada.
No, when is that
the
supposed to
grandfatherly Tony Evers versus the
Scott
Wankinator.
It's Friday, right?
I'm not sure what day it is.
I'll look it up. I think it's coming up this Friday, the 19th. Coming quick.
Nothing like first round of high school football playoffs.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get to the debate. This one, let's start with your girl, Leah Buchmer. Climate change. UN put out a climate change advisory, says, well, we got maybe 12 to 22 years to stem the burning of our planet. And what's Leah saying in response to that, Tom?
Let's hear cut one.
Well, God gave us this great earth, and it is our responsibility to nurture it and to care for it.
And take dominion
over it. Making sure that we are taking care of our natural resources. But we also have to be careful that when we go down the road of trying to affect climate change, and climate is changing. I think everyone agrees to that.
No, not really.
But what we have to be careful of is when we go down this road, that we balance whatever procedures and mechanisms that we're doing to try to affect the change in climate, that we're not just doing something without certainty that is going to make a difference. That's the problem with so many of these green ideas. They're not based in science. And they're based on a whim, and there is no certainty that it's actually going to make a difference.
Like windmills?
We have to balance our need for protecting
this
beautiful
Solar?
earth that was given
Can
to
you
us
prove they work?
with the need to make sure that we're not spending money in areas that aren't going to make a difference. And oftentimes, these are proposals that put a lot of onus on countries that are the only ones that follow through on it, like America, and other countries are doing absolutely nothing. And how fair is that? It is not fair to our industries, but I believe we can truly take care of this if we balance those two needs together. I'm committed to it. I know we can do it, but we have to be careful that we just don't embrace crazy, extreme ideas that have no certain benefit to make a difference on the environment.
Your time is up.
I hope Leah gets some clean coal in her stocking this Christmas.
You know, she did not put forth any idea of what she would do to address this. Okay, fair enough.
I can't believe the green energy scientists with their windmills and their solar panels.
No, because God gave us this earth.
God wants it a little warmer. We're God's sauna now.
Let's hear Tammy Baldwin also. This is U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, also on climate change. Brian, cut to.
I've reviewed the UN climate report. It does present very dire concerns, including global temperature warming of about 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit by 2040. I also see it all around me. I've been twice up to northern counties in 2016 and 2018 just to survey damage from incredibly extreme rain events that have washed out roads and cost local communities, state and federal resources in order to repair on an emergent basis. So I see what's happening. My opponent, and this is where you have such a clear choice in this election, my opponent not only disputes climate science, and I'm learning today that she also is disputing some of the science behind cleaner energy sources, et cetera, but she also would see fitting to eliminate the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, which protects the water we drink and the air we breathe. We all share that on this planet, and we have got to continue to press for better stewardship and resiliency these days. In addition, I just have to say that the effects are around us. They're immediate.
And I have to say your time is up.
Okay.
So at least one seems to believe, the other not so much. But Leah, again, seems to think that, this is something that there's not much argument. Everyone agrees, but I don't think that's the case if you heard Trump today.
Are you sure Leah's not just cheering for the rapture?
Well, she is. I mean, that's doesn't everybody who's like that? Let's get to the weed, though.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Leah Vukmir, the nurse on weed. Listen up, folks, if you would, Brian.
Here's the real science on marijuana.
Yeah, here we go.
I firmly believe that this is an issue that should be settled at the state level. And I have very serious concerns about the legalization of marijuana, and people know that. I have said that. I look at marijuana and the fact that it is a Schedule I drug, which we know means there are no medical indications for its use.
What?
And therefore, I believe it is very concerning that Senator Baldwin would be willing to open this up. The Department of Drug Enforcement and Education has said that marijuana is highly addictive, even more addictive than Vicodin and meth and other drugs.
What?
We have a serious heroin and opioid addiction problem in our state and in our country, and a problem that Senator Baldwin avoided at our Toma VA. And I got to tell you, I don't want to put us in a situation where we are now contributing to that and making the problem worse. The governor of Colorado, a Democrat governor, has said, states, beware, be careful before you go down this road. Also, as a nurse, I look at this from the perspective of the research I've seen on the brain development of our young people. I am very concerned that if we start going down this road where we make this legal, what is going to happen to our young people? I'm not willing to take that risk. Much more time is needed, and we need to see what happens in states like Colorado.
Whoever says that is a stupid idiot.
She's terrible. Running out of time. Let's make sure we get Tammy Baldwin in on weed.
Let me start with where I would be on those referenda. I haven't seen all of them, but I believe that I would be, I think there is one on my ballot at home, and I will be supporting it. Here's the problem with the Schedule I designation. When something is deemed to have no medical value, then there's no publicly funded research. So we don't know the facts, except for what has been discovered through research in other countries or whatever privately funded research has been done. And that's a problem, because we need to know if this is an effective alternative to other drugs for glaucoma, or for wasting syndrome, or for any number of other conditions. How about an alternative treatment to pain that's less addictive than opioids that have killed so many people in this country? But we also have other issues in the federal government. In states now where it is legal to use marijuana for medicinal purposes, federally employed doctors can't discuss that with their patients. That's a problem. A doctor should have free rein to talk about all options with their patients. And so we have certainly more work to do in this area of relieving pain.
Thank you, Senator Baldwin. Your time is up.
Tammy Baldwin, a lot closer to the right answer. Got a fine guest joining us next. She is Kriss Marion, a Democrat running for Wisconsin Senate in District 17.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Missing journalist, Hurricane Michael. I'm Ann Cates. CNN is reporting on a new development in the case of a missing Washington Post columnist. Correspondent Clarissa Ward.
Saudi Arabia is preparing a report in which they will acknowledge that Jamal Khashoggi was killed in the Saudi consulate, that it was not intentional, that it was the result of essentially a botched operation, a botched interrogation that was likely supposed to end up in a kidnapping or abduction to take him from Turkey, presumably back to Saudi Arabia.
President Trump has gotten a first-hand look at the devastation caused by Hurricane Michael in Florida and Georgia.
Somebody said it was like a very wide, but you mean extremely wide tornado, because that's really what this was. This was beyond any winds that they've seen. I guess 50 years, but who knows? It could have been longer than that. Nobody's seen anything like this.
Schools in at least 8 Florida Panhandle counties will remain closed until further notice because of damage to the buildings. The president has told 60 Minutes that it's possible Defense Secretary James Mattis, who he called sort of a Democrat, might leave his administration. Correspondent Barbara Starr.
He is here to serve the troops. He feels very passionately on that particular point. He's not going to walk away. He would make the administration fire him, is the absolute consensus around here.
The American Bar Association will no longer look into new Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Correspondent Linda Kenyon.
The ABA says the review is no longer applicable because Kavanaugh was confirmed to the High Court. The ABA had announced it would review Kavanaugh's top rating of well qualified after he was accused of sexual misconduct by 3 women. Kavanaugh denied all of the allegations. At the time it reopened the review, the ABA said it was looking into issues regarding Kavanaugh's temperament as a judge.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 89 points. The S&P closed down 16. The Nasdaq off 66. I'm Ann Cates.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
To 49776.
One of NASA's space telescopes that went offline last week is back in business.
NASA says the Chandra X-ray Observatory came back online on Friday after a glitch in one of its gyroscopes forced the telescope to go into safe mode. The glitch generated 3 seconds of bad computer data last week, which was enough to shut down the 19-year-old telescope. Flight controllers restored Chandra's pointing system by switching to a backup gyroscope. Chandra is expected to start providing observations again by the end of the week. The switch to safe mode came less than a week after the Hubble Space Telescope went down. It remains out of commission because of a more serious issue with its gyroscope. I'm John Stolnis.
It won't be all night, but former members of KISS might get the chance to rock and roll with the band one last time. KISS frontman Paul Stanley says the band's upcoming farewell tour could include former members. Its current lineup includes Stanley, Gene Simmons, and drummer Eric Singer. I'm Ann Cates.
Excuse me, I know you have a 9 o'clock, so I'll keep this short. I'm the business suit in the back of your closet. You wore me nearly every day before your office went, quote, casual. I used to be the CEO of your closet. Now I'm just that one intern no one ever talks to. I always thought you'd circle back with me, get granular, keep me in the pipeline. But nada, nothing. Don't you remember the McKittrick presentation? You spilled coffee on me, and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So, I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume, and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gostad. Paul Ryan may be retiring from Congress, but that's not going to keep him off the campaign trail. The House Speaker will be visiting a dozen states to bolster more than 24 vulnerable Republicans between now and Election Day, according to USA Today. Several of the candidates that Ryan will be stumping for are members of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus. Ryan has sometimes been at odds with the Freedom Caucus, but his biggest priority now seems to be maintaining the majority in the House, if possible. Tonight is Poets Monday at Linneman's River West Inn on the corner of Locust and Wheel. Featured poet tonight is Mario the Poet. Monday, mostly sunny, highs in the mid-40s. Tonight, mostly clear, lows in the mid-30s. Tuesday, mostly sunny and breezy, highs in the mid-50s. Wednesday, sunny and windy, highs in the mid-40s. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gostad.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour, and we're about to introduce a new guest live via phone. She is Kriss Marion. She is a Dem candidate for Wisconsin Senate District 17. That would be currently the seat held by Howard Marklein. Kriss, welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
Great to be with you guys. This is your happy hour?
Yeah,
it's the happy hour. Welcome.
Sweet. I gave blood this morning, so I'm not allowed to drink. So that's a bummer. But
well, we'll have one for you, Kriss.
Hey, Kriss, I always kind of looked at this seat historically, as long as I've been paying attention to Wisconsin politics, is the Dale Schultz seat. And our Republican moderate buddy Dale Schultz held that seat proudly for many years. And then the last moderate got chased off by lots of corporate dollars, and their preferred candidate was Howard Marklein, and he's been doing the damage ever since. Kriss, you'd like to change the tide of the 17th, and if Wisconsin, the blue part of Wisconsin, if Democrats are going to win back the Senate, Kriss Marion, you're going to have to do your part and beat Marklein. How are you going to do so?
Yeah. I definitely have to win if we're going to flip the Senate. We're just 2 seats away, so it's looking really good. I would like to do this by, in some ways, being the Dem Dale Schultz. I really like Dale a ton. We're good friends. I consider him a mentor. And, as I'm out knocking doors, I hear a lot about how Dale operated. People who are known Dems tell me that he spent lots of time talking to them, sat in their kitchens, went to their businesses, remembered the food they like to eat. And I, as someone who's got local government experience, I'm on the county board in Lafayette, I really pride myself on being able to work across the table and finding people interesting from both sides of the political spectrum. That's my happy place, is being right in the middle there, being able to talk to everybody.
Well, Kriss,
so that's how I'm going to do it.
We know you're a county supervisor, but what's your professional background? You're something of an entrepreneur, organic farmer, if I understand your resume.
I am, but you guys probably don't know this, but I come from journalism. I am a trained journalist. I wrote for the Daily Herald for some time. I was a beat reporter, so covered local government.
Nice.
And, so that was the suburbs around Chicago. And then
you trying to show us up, Kriss?
No. I am such a fan of the media and newspapers and local radio. I think we cannot have democracy without you guys. And every opportunity I get to thank people in local news, I do. And I thank you guys right now. Thanks for doing what you're doing. It's integral to democracy, and I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you, Kriss.
Kriss, what about... I've already gone to a different thought. What about your personal activism? You went out and changed state law. Apparently, you wanted to bring some baked goods. What happened? I won't explain it properly. Kriss, what did you do to change the law on baked goods, which I see as a very good thing, Miss?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm kind of known as the cookie lady in a lot of places because I run with a group of about 150 women farmers down here in south central Wisconsin, and we call ourselves the Soil Sisters. And for about 10 years, we've been meeting for potlucks. Once a month, we go from farm to farm. 150 of us aren't always there, but people get there as they can. And something that we often talk about is how can we monetize our farms better? How can we do better? We all know that agriculture is in a tough spot, regardless of what sector you're in. And we are always trying to look at new angles. So one of the things that came up was that it was illegal to bake cookies at home and sell them at the farmer's market. A lot of us do markets. A lot of us do community-supported agriculture, and it was illegal for us to bake cookies and put them in our boxes for subscribers. So we thought it was going to be a pretty easy change. Wisconsin and New Jersey actually were the only two states that made it illegal to sell home-baked goods. So we figured it was just a matter of educating our legislators. So we cheerfully went to Madison in aprons with spatulas and cookies and talked to our representatives. We had a great bill written up by Janice Ringhand, passed the Senate easily, and then when it got to the Assembly floor, the day of the vote, a whole bunch of us were actually in Madison waiting to thank our representatives. And we learned that Robin Vos simply wouldn't put it on the agenda. So we had to start from scratch again. We did it again.
That bastard! What does Robin Vos have against cookies? Is it the fact he's a popcorn manufacturer? Did he see you as the competition, perhaps, Kriss?
Yeah, apparently. I mean, that was what he said. He wanted a level playing field. But when we looked into his history, actually we didn't. CBS Sunday Morning did some digging because we were on the show. And turns out one of his biggest donors was the Grocers Association. And they found some awesome footage that they put on the show of Vos at some competition with who could bag the fastest. And there he was, stuffing things in a bag at the Grocers Association conference.
Was he filling up the bag with cash, Kriss?
Filling up the bag. So, yeah. And so twice he blocked it. And it's funny, right now, his wife has some PAC that she runs, and they're running television ads against me, all day long out here. So, didn't make any friends with the speaker, and that's okay. I don't even care about baking that much. I mean, I think baking is great. I have a bed and breakfast, so I have the opportunity. I already have an inspected kitchen through that, but it was illegal for me to sell things. And the fact is, I just want more opportunities for rural development. In a town of 825 like my town, a couple people baking at home and selling at a farmer's market is the difference between a thriving market and one that won't work. So we now have 3 bakers in town who sell their baked goods at the market. I buy them for my bed and breakfast, and we had to sue to get it done. Though we sued with the Institute for Justice, which is a libertarian law firm, and we won. So the ban is overthrown, but we still don't have any law regarding it. So bake away, everybody.
Bake away. Folks are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We're speaking with Kriss Marion. She's a Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 17th Senate District. Kriss, saw your name mentioned in a New York Times piece entitled, Democrats want to beat Scott Walker, but the Wisconsin economy is a hurdle. I'm not going to get into the economics of the jobs portion right now, Kriss, but the portion of the article where you mentioned talks about engaging with the independents. And, certainly coming from that neck of the woods, I would imagine that there's a lot of independents. How are you seeing the independents leaning these days? What do you see as the concerns, and how are you engaging them?
Yeah, I mean, our district is famously purple. We were the focus of a lot of television news pieces right after Trump's election, because we went real strong for Obama, and then we went for Trump big too. So we're known for being pretty independent thinking, and I got to say, it's the best district to campaign in. It's a blast. Every single door you hit is fascinating. People are a mixed bag of alliances, and it's just really fun. So that is the kind of thing I thrive on. I won the Libertarian of the Year award for the cookie bill, and my county board colleagues were shocked when I came out as a Dem. So this is completely my jam out here, and it's a lot of fun work in the district. So I think what I'm hearing is people are fed up with roads. They're fed up with what they perceive as the corruption in government. And I think some people can articulate that as the money in government. Obviously, my experience with Robin Vos showed me that democracy isn't being served when we've got these big lobbies pushing us around. And, Marklein's a great example of that. He does what Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce wants. He never votes against something they like. And, he famously wrote or submitted legislation that governed Madison's ability to regulate their own water.
Kriss, I take great umbrage. I live 6 blocks from Lake Mendota in Middleton. And why is it that Howard Marklein, who, my understanding, his district doesn't even really touch any of the lakes in the Madison area, why did he insert himself? The only explanation we got from Marklein why he basically gave developers control over the lakes in Madison is they gave him money.
Yeah, well, he said that a lobbyist delivered the legislation to him, and then he couldn't recall who the lobbyist was. But, of course, we can all look it up, in his donations. It's there for everybody to see. So, yep, this is why I'm running, and this is what my district is fed up with. Of course, there's some passivity. There's plenty of people who throw up their hands and are like, well, we're never going to have change. Yeah. Corporations are always going to run America. And I simply refuse to believe that. And I refuse to believe that rural Wisconsin has to crumble and fade. I believe in small towns. I believe in the viability, not just the dignity, but the true viability and the value of rural places. We've got this terrible workforce shortage, and I think we're going to find and train and grow and attract that workforce right here in rural Wisconsin. So I'm ready to fight.
Kriss Marion, you described yourself as something of a baker. Some in our audience would describe themselves likewise for differing reasons. We're something of a marijuana-friendly product here, and Kriss, want to get your attitudes out there in the western part of Wisconsin. What are people saying about referendums and perhaps the prospect of legalized marijuana, taxation, regulation of marijuana, or even just industrial hemp in that part of the agricultural part of the state? What do you think about marijuana and hemp, Kriss?
Oh, yeah. So I am hearing about it a lot. A lot of people, I've got a lot of friends who are veterans, and a lot of talk about medical cannabis. I think we should start right there, and I think that, clearly the appetite of the country and the state is moving in that direction. Here's my concern. I am for legalization, but I am for legalization in a climate that allows farmers to profit. As a farmer, you mentioned I'm a small organic farmer. I run a bed and breakfast, which is where I make most of my money now, but I have been really active in farm advocacy issues for about 8 years, and I am completely committed to fighting the corporatization of marijuana growing. And in other states, we've seen where immediately upon legalization, corporations took control, and the family farmers in the state didn't get to profit at all. So I've really cautioned my friends who are hot to get this done, let's do it in a climate when we can make sure that our farmers can make a profit, because our farmers need ways to make money. And hemp is a great example. We legalized hemp and then immediately over-regulated it. Because we weren't doing the R&D as a state, we've cut university research, we've cut extension, ag extension, which should be doing the research on emerging markets for agriculture. We have failed agriculture. We've failed our farmers here in Wisconsin because we stopped investing in R&D and innovation development. And hemp is a great example. We legalized it with no R&D on the processing, on markets, and we've fallen behind almost every other state that's growing right now. So I'm anxious, if we go the direction of legalization, that we do R&D, that we understand the market, that we understand the issues, that we figure out how to get the money in the hands of the farmers instead of the corporations and the processors.
Well, Kriss Marion, I've seen a number of your ads in the Madison market. I'm also seeing the ads for Howard Marklein. I got to ask you, do you have any internal polling? Do you have a sense how you doing head-to-head?
Yeah, well, we did polling a little while ago, and we knew that we were neck and neck, and that when people heard a little bit about me, because I was largely unknown, north of Iowa County, when people heard more about what I stood for and my background, then I was up in the polls. But clearly, the Republican polling shows the same, because the vast amount of money that's being dumped into this district with negative ads from, like I said, Voss's wife's group and other groups. I'm not even sure what they do, but
they funnel money and run negative ads, Kriss. That's kind of the MO.
Yeah. So we know we're looking good because they're all over us.
Kriss Marion, if people want to get involved in your campaign, give a few bucks, perhaps volunteer, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so my name is spelled kind of strange. It's Kriss. And I've got a website at krissforwisconsin.com. And I've got a really active Facebook page. We'd love to interact with people. And so there's a lot on there about what we're doing, where we are. We're calling the campaign the Forward Together Road Trip, because we just are everywhere. And I am kind of a professional lover of Wisconsin. As a bed and breakfast owner, I've spent many years making my living off of promoting this region, and it is my greatest delight to be able to discover more little towns and rural cities that I'm in love with. So that's the Forward Together Road Trip, and people can join us. So they should just sign up, and we'll get them some information.
Well, Kriss Marion, we appreciate you joining us, a Democratic candidate, Wisconsin's 17th Senate District, home-baked cookies, legalized marijuana, and Kriss Marion in the Senate. Sounds like a winning combination to me, Kriss.
Well, you got a couple things going on there that might work.
Thank you, Kriss.
Thank you. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
We're going to be friends for a long, long period of time. Mr. Trump is cooking.
Getting a raise at work shouldn't mean paying more for healthcare and taking home less. Badger Care is arguably the best and most cost-effective health plan out there, but it's not an option for most of us. Lillian Cheeseman is fighting for us to change this. Lillian is committed to making Badger Care accessible and affordable to anyone in Wisconsin without income qualifiers at an affordable price. Let's cut the red tape on Badger Care and work for a healthier Wisconsin. Be a real Wisconsinite and vote for cheese for Assembly 15th on November 6th. Paid for by Friends of Cheeseman.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in the former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
150 over 90, and I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure sounds like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from silent. Get back on your treatment plan or talk with your doctor to create a plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Head to toe, everything's changed.
Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, online at YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the party line's always open for our fine audience at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, Kriss Marion, Kriss, K-R-I-S-S. Kriss Marion, a Democratic candidate, Wisconsin Senate District 17, easy for me to say. And currently, Howard Marklein holds that district. I've been seeing a plethora of ads both for and against Kriss Marion. And, of course, Howard Marklein. You know, got to keep it moving, Wisconsin.
I haven't seen any, of course. You're in that
Madison
area.
media market. Yes.
First time I've ever communicated with her. She seems fantastic.
Yeah, I like her. Her ad features a pickup truck, and she's got like hand-painted, sidewalls, which are basically a campaign ad for her. She is like a driving billboard for Kriss Marion. Kriss for Wisconsin. So far, I've liked the ads. Seems spunky. I hate to use that term. I don't mean to mischaracterize, but, seems like someone that gets out there and moves and shakes.
Well, she is. I mean,
makes a difference.
A county supervisor, in a bed and breakfast, meeting new people all the time. I mean, she's used to being on. I thought she did a great interview. The weed conversation is a very important one here in the state of Wisconsin.
I thought you meant on this show, and I would say absolutely.
Yeah, you know it. And she brings up a great point, and we've heard these kinds of concerns before. Yes, legalization, but, what does that look like? How does that come to fruition, and who gets access to the markets?
My only regret having Kriss today, I got no cookies, man. I've been thinking like chocolate chip cookies ever since I booked her. Next time we'll bring her in studio. We can allow her to pass on the beer, but she's got to bring some home baked.
Well, that's fine, and hopefully we'll get some legalized marijuana. Maybe we get some edibles.
Yeah, someday. Someday, come back with us. Join us on the phones. They're open and toll free at 844-967-2789. The happy hour. It continues.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. Scott Walker went on something of a Twitter storm, very Trumpian. What do you think this foretells for Scott Walker's future as the governor of the state of Wisconsin?
Wisconsinites have woken up. He talked about we need an optimistic message. How can you make people feel optimistic when you take away their health care? How can you make people optimistic when you take away the right to bargain? How can you make people feel optimistic when you're gerrymandering the heck out of districts?
Radio for the 99%.
Here's how you get them. If someone invites you for a cocktail, you bring them beer. If someone invites you to dinner, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way.
We don't need to imagine the challenges our state faces. We live them every day. This is former State Representative Mandela Barnes. I'm running to be your next Lieutenant Governor. And whether it's more access to affordable health care, or clean water, or better jobs, or wanting the best schools for our kids, there's only one candidate for governor who will get results: Tony Evers. That's what Tony's done as a teacher and as state superintendent of public schools. I've seen Tony's character and his passion to do what's right for kids. I've seen Tony Evers listen to the concerns and problems of people around the state, and I've worked with him to find solutions to those problems. Isn't that what we need? 8 years is enough of Scott Walker and his failed politics of division. We need a governor who cares about all of us. We need a governor who's concerned about the next generation, not just the next election. It's time for a change. That's why Tony for Wisconsin paid for this ad.
Do you love public education? Do you want to support your schools? Then you should support the people who make them work. You should support teachers and their unions. Teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions, and when the school bell rings, it is crucial that teachers do not check their rights at the door. The ability to organize and advocate around issues that improve the quality of a teacher's workplace will increase opportunities for students and make schools safer for everyone. Stand with teachers, stand with WEAC Region 7.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Here are your headlines for October 15th. Candidate for governor Tony Evers says he will cut taxes for the middle class by 10% when he becomes governor. Evers plans to pay for the tax cut by reducing the tax breaks for high-income farmers and manufacturers. Senator Tammy Baldwin and challenger Leah Vukmer met in Wausau for their second debate on Saturday night. Among the topics were health care, Brett Kavanaugh, and immigration, which is a big concern for Wisconsin's dairy farmers since many of their employees are immigrants. Vukmer said she wants to help Donald Trump build a wall on the Mexican border. Polls have shown Senator Tammy Baldwin with a lead over Vukmer. And Republican Brad Schimmel and Democrat Josh Kaul met for their second debate in a race for Wisconsin Attorney General. Among topics were voter ID, health care, untested rape kits, arming teachers, and medical marijuana. For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That's got to be Fancy Brian's favorite Eagle Scream drop. And ours as well. And of course, we like you when you call us at 844-967-2789. We'll get to the phones in a minute. But Dom, the Attorney General race in the state of Wisconsin, that should be a no-brainer. I mean, one of these candidates has no brain.
That's Schimmel.
That is the hack. The partisan, the current Attorney General, Brad Schimmel. Well, Dom, they did have a little debate, and they both Schimmel and Josh Kaul, his Democratic opponent, have new campaign ads out today, and we'll get to those in a minute. But let's go to the Associated Press reporting. Todd Richman, my second favorite of two Associated Press reporters in the state of Wisconsin. I'm a Scott Bauer guy. But anyways, here's the piece. Making friends over here.
Yeah, all the time.
Democratic Attorney General candidate Josh Kaul went on the attack during his first debate with Republican incumbent Brad Schimmel on Friday, hoping to make up ground after polls show him trailing the veteran prosecutor less than a month before Election Day. Call hammered away at Schimmel for taking too long to test thousands of unanalyzed sexual assault kits that sat on a police station and hospital shelves for decades. The State Department of Justice got a pair of federal grants to start testing in 2015, but the work wasn't completed until last month. Schimmel said it took time to inventory the kits and find private labs with the capacity to perform testing.
And all those coins had to get made up, man. Got to get the swag out there.
Very important. How else are you going to motivate the guys if no swag to give away?
Kicking ass every day.
Call kept going back to the kits throughout the hour-long debate, accusing Schimmel of letting dangerous criminals roam the streets unidentified. That's factually accurate. At one point, Call asked Schimmel directly how many people in Wisconsin have been charged with a crime as a result of the testing. Schimmel didn't answer.
Of course.
Instead, touting himself as an advocate for sexual assault victims and declaring that he solved a 25-year-old problem in 3 years. Famous last words from Brad Schimmel. Here's a quote. "We got this. Mission accomplished."
Yeah, you and Bush.
Schimmel worked to make Call look like a woefully inexperienced outsider, contrasting his 25 years as a prosecutor in Waukesha County with Call's 4 years as an assistant federal prosecutor in Baltimore. Schimmel claimed to have worked 60,000 cases as Waukesha County prosecutor. Call, on the other hand, was assigned only 25 cases during his stint in Baltimore and made closing arguments to a jury only 3 times, according to Schimmel. Call seemed stunned, saying Schimmel's numbers were wrong, and he had no idea where he found them. They made him up. Schimmel pressed him, demanding to know how many times he had made closing arguments. More than 3, Call said, but didn't offer a number. Call has been battering Schimmel for months for not doing enough to curb opioid abuse in Wisconsin, noting nearly 900 people died from overdoses in 2017. Schimmel has countered that prevention and treatment rather than arrest are the way out of the crisis and continually holds up the DOJ's Dose of Reality public awareness campaign as a national model for promoting prevention. Works just as well as just say no.
Call said during the debate that the opioid problem has only gotten worse on Schimmel's watch. He jabbed the Attorney General for not joining other states in suing pharmaceutical companies for allegedly using deceptive marketing practices to sell opioid-based painkillers.
And it gets better. A little lying from the current Attorney General. Republicans have no qualms making it up.
No, but wait, he's the top cop, man. Cops don't lie, right?
Well, this one does.
When a moderator asked him why the state hasn't sued, Schimmel incorrectly answered that the state is involved in a lawsuit.
Incorrectly answered. That's a lot like making this stuff up. You can't just make it up and say we're involved in a lawsuit. No, you're not.
He walked that back in the next breath, explaining Wisconsin is involved in a multi-state investigation of the pharmaceutical industry. Call jumped on the mischaracterization. It's just false that Wisconsin is involved in a lawsuit. Schimmel said he's not opposed to medical marijuana if science can show it helps alleviate patients' pain. He doesn't support legalizing recreational use, though, saying Wisconsin already has enough impaired drivers on the road.
And that's a topic he should know something about. When a young junior district attorney in Waukesha County, he was the one out driving impaired on the roads. He got a DWI, one he didn't fess up to until after it became public knowledge. He knows a little something about driving around impaired.
That was one of the first indicators of douchiness from this cat, but I will continue from the AP article by Todd Richmond. Call said he supports legalizing medical marijuana to help people deal with pain and provide the state with new revenue. Call attacked Schimmel, and if I may pause and interject. Hey, Call. Full legalization of recreational and medicinal. Every Dem out there. It's on your frickin' platform. If you belong to the party, that's on the platform. Any questions?
They all want to take that half step. I'm okay with medical, but, we're going to have to study Colorado very closely.
And again, I will offer to any Republican, any conservative, anybody out there.
Oh, here comes the Dom Challenge.
The Dom Challenge. You take a shot for every puff I take. First one to die loses. Back to back. Call attacked Schimmel for stating he would train teachers in gun safety if they want to get armed in school, calling that an alarming idea. He also criticized Schimmel for missing a self-imposed deadline for handing out $100 million in grants for school security upgrades. Schimmel had promised to get the money out before the start of the school year, but DOJ expects to award the last of the grants this month and for suggesting doing away with gun-free school zones. Schimmel countered that he would support local decisions to arm teachers.
What?
And he would train them to use their firearms safely.
So say that again. The current Attorney General, let's not forget, advocates for putting more guns in the schools, arming the teachers.
Local decisions. It's up to the locals. But if the local decisions, I guess they want to arm the teachers.
He wants to use the $100 million grant to arm the teachers.
He would train them to use their firearms safely. He said gun-free school zones punish law-abiding citizens, and signs and stickers aren't going to deter school shooters.
Neither is letting teachers bring guns into school.
No, it deters them.
They never have a bad day.
Hey, signs and stickers deter school shooters about as much as thoughts and prayers. I'm just saying. Colin and Schimmel are set to meet Sunday at Marquette University for their second debate. They will meet again Tuesday afternoon in Milwaukee for the third and final before the November 6th election. And there we go.
They had been scheduled to meet again October 26th in a debate hosted by UW-Madison's Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership. But the center announced online Thursday the debate has been canceled because a gubernatorial debate and a World Series game are scheduled for that evening.
Sports.
And it was my understanding, at least, Schimmel's being accused of pulling out of that debate. You know, he's only doing debates if he can get the big ratings.
He needs all the help he can get. So, but I would say of all the races right now that concern me, I think this Josh Call, Brad Schimmel race is the most concerning. Call does not have great name recognition. He's a fine dude.
And he's trailing, which Tony Evers is not. Currently, Tony Evers, at least if you believe the newest Marist polling, is up by about 10, like 6 to 8 if you factor in Libertarian Phil Anderson. Josh Call trailing. Solidly trailing the worst attorney general.
He's terrible.
In the state of Wisconsin history, a guy that makes his employees sign NDAs. A guy that, effectively has done what? Undermined the morale and the effectiveness of the Department of Justice. And it wasn't until he, started gearing up for the re-elective campaign that he finally got around to spending the federal grants to test the rape kits.
Well, I mean...
And that doesn't count the new rape kits. That's just clearing up the backlog.
The backlog.
There's a new backlog.
If you can do it and get some political capital at the same time, well, hell, what's a couple of months, couple of years delay?
I realize numerically, if Schimmel's accurate, 16,000 cases worked. That seems quite inflated to me. Maybe 16,000 files crossed his desk over his tenure. But I got to tell you, most of them are what? DWI offenses? I mean, we're talking Waukesha County. These aren't murders and drug busts primarily that are being prosecuted through the DA's office in Waukesha County. I would say perhaps a few years, 3 or 4 years in a federal prosecutor's office, might, like dog years. Waukesha County District Attorney's Office years, seems somehow insignificant when compared to the resume of a federal prosecutor. Well, but he's been doing it, small ball in Waukesha County for a long time, that Schimmel.
Well, and he would know with these cases, once again, he himself had the DUI that he did not admit to when he had every opportunity to discuss DUI's first offense drunk driving. And here's the context of that.
And he's against criminalizing first offense drunk driving.
And he actually could have presented a solid argument for that. And he could have said, look, I am against criminalizing first offense drunk driving because I had a first offense drunk driving. If I would have been criminally prosecuted, perhaps he would not have been able to get the job that he got. And perhaps it would...
Shouldn't have gotten the job he got.
Yeah.
And how did he get his record expunged? Why is it not on his CCAP?
CCAP? I don't know how that works. I guess when you're the AG, you can hit the delete button.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how that delete button, that expungement, that cleaning up with the record happened before his candidacy for Attorney General. It's almost like he's got some friends.
Friends in high places.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. We got lots of you that are friends. I'd like to think you're friends. We're friends, aren't we?
We're friends. Call me.
Call me. 844-967-2789. Running out of time on this big program. Tomorrow, got Mark Pocan on the show.
Nice.
But coming back to the phones and you. Once again, that number, the only one you need, 844-967-2789. Don't forget, tell your kids, tell your neighbors, Brad Schimmel must go.
Waiting by the phone, waiting for you to call me up and tell me I'm not alone.
I don't have a lot of expertise.
We have to bring back law and order.
I don't even know my own website address.
We're like the stupid people.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Everybody buckle up. Mom. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom,
buckle
can we get
up.
some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on Real Resistance Radio. Tune in Sundays for Meet the Press with Chuck Todd from 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the Best of the Forum with Sherwin Hughes from 12 to 3 p.m. And Citizen Action's Battleground Wisconsin rages from 3 to 4 p.m. Get your groove on with Stu Man PM, Politics and Music 4 to 6 p.m. with Stu Daniels. Mandatory listening, always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
In this dirty old part of the city,
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
people tell me there ain't no use in trying. Yeah.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. Damn, time flies when you're having fun. You could join us, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, it is a triple header of coolness. Devil's Advocates radio show. Milwaukee Brewers playing the Dodgers in the NLCS. And, of course, the Packers. Monday Night Football, always a big night. And they play against the 49ers. So, it's just getting good right up in here. And Dominic, our friend Matt Rothschild, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, dropped a little piece. Major Scott Walker donor avoids fine for polluting river and farmlands. I would suspect Brad Schimmel factors into this as well. A western Wisconsin frac sand mine, whose owner is a generous Republican Party contributor, will not be fined by the state for a 10 million gallon spill in May. I wonder if a lefty would get the same sort of deference, Dom. The State Department of Natural Resources said it decided not to issue a fine against High Crush Proppants of Houston for releasing sludge and wastewater because it was done to rescue a trapped worker whose bulldozer slipped into a pond and held the wastewater. The DNR said state law allows wastewater permit holders to bypass normal procedures in emergency situations. The orange Trump-like sludge and wastewater traveled across farm fields and eventually into the Trempealeau River. Now, here's where it gets interesting, Dom. High Crush co-founder Robert Rasmus and some of his employees have contributed more than $340,000 to Governor Scott Walker and the state Republican Party in recent years.
Damn.
Between January 2012 and December of 2017, Rasmus contributed $25,000 to Walker's campaign. Another $10,375 was contributed to Walker by 3 of Rasmus's employees. And Rasmus also contributed $205,000 to the state Republican Party between September 14 and last December. And one more contribution, a sweet one, Dom. In addition to the state contributions, Rasmus also contributed $100,000 in February of 2015 to Our American Revival, which was one of the 2 federal committees created to support Walker's 2016 presidential bid. And High Crush was fined $52,000 in January 2014 by the state of Wisconsin for operating 2 wells at its mine in Augusta without a DNR approval.
I didn't know we needed that.
So, business as usual if you're a big-ass $300,000 Scott Walker contributor.
A 10 million gallon spill.
Sorry.
Oops. Not even a slap on the wrist. There's no fine. A slap on the wrist would be a small fine. Like the one Foxconn got.
Well, guy fell in the pit, so got to dump 10 million gallons. No problem. Dom, the Attorney General's race, and I would say Schimmel, has some control. Haven't we stopped basically instituting and upholding pollution laws in the state of Wisconsin under Schimmel? I mean, the DNR fines have decreased by about 2/3 under Schimmel. Not because people are polluting less or spilling less, but they're giving more.
Oh, come on. So you think that there's actually no reduction in the occurrence of spillage and pollution, and that, in fact, the Republicans are not shepherding in a greater era of corporate responsibility, but they're just paying them off? Is it?
I just let you finish because you like to hear yourself talk. But that's not the case.
Is that what you're saying?
Just write me a check and all is good. Pollute away. Dom, 2 ads, new Attorney General ads out there. And I want to start with Josh Call, the Democratic AG candidate. Now, Josh Call makes a great observation of what Brad Schimmel's been doing with his time. Holds up a little, what are they called? Commemorative coin. This one, very fancy. It's even got some painting, some enamel on there. Ooh. Not the cheap kind.
No, only the best.
Not like a Chuck E. Cheese coin. This one's kind of fancy schmancy. Here it is. Josh Call's newest political ad, played for the people, Fancy Brian.
This is a commemorative coin, and this is a rape kit. This doesn't fight crime, but testing the DNA in one of these can help you catch a dangerous criminal. So why did Brad Schimmel spend thousands of taxpayer dollars on commemorative coins while over 4,000 rape kits went untested for more than 2 years? I'm Josh Call. I prosecuted murderers and drug traffickers. I'm running for Attorney General, and I know that you deserve a lot better than this.
And then he holds up the little...
Josh Call for Attorney General.
Holds up the little Brad Schimmel kicking ass every day commemorative coin.
Yes, we do deserve better than the coin and Brad Schimmel.
Now, Brad Schimmel also has his own ad out today, and apparently his internal polling tells him not doing so well with women. This ad features binders full of women. Dom, he lined them up, he gathered them together, and they schlocked it together in this so poignant Schimmel Loves Women ad dropping today.
We know the real Brad Schimmel.
We've worked with him, gone to church with him. We've seen him work hard to keep our communities safe. We trust Brad Schimmel.
Brad Schimmel is leading the fight against opiate abuse.
He's catching internet predators who prey on our kids.
Brad Schimmel eliminated the rape kit backlog.
He has bipartisan support all across Wisconsin.
We trust his experience. He gets results.
We're glad Brad Schimmel is our Attorney General.
And that's when the whores come in.
Oh, gee. Oh, no. Brad Schimmel has bipartisan support? Really?
Bipolar or bipartisan?
I'm just not a fan.
He does. He has Democratic...
Sheriffs?
Sheriffs, I think.
To hell with them. Of course they go, I'm not going to legalize marijuana. This is terrible. These bunch of damn hippies. Of course he has the redneck sheriffs because they don't believe in science either. I'm just so sick and tired of these. You're either willfully ignorant or you're lying to the people. There was absolutely no reason for marijuana to remain illegal, for Brad Schimmel to do these half steps.
Now there's some breaking news, and this is some sad news. Judge dismisses Stormy Daniels' defamation suit against Donald Trump.
Aw.
I guess he will not be deposed in that defamation suit. Hopefully the Summer Zerbos defamation suit, hopefully that one does advance. The judge had ruled earlier that Trump must respond to Summer Zerbos. But Stormy, it's a sad day for Stormy.
She would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
Oh, yeah. But you did pay her some money, though.
Well, that was Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen came out over this weekend and said, this is the most important election in your life, Democrats.
Come on, everybody says it every election cycle.
Well, Michael Cohen meant it, Dom.
And didn't he come out as a Democrat as well?
I think he has changed party affiliations.
Yeah.
Have you?
Have I?
Have you ever had a party affiliation except somewhere near the Tapper?
I love to party, man. I will party with everybody.
I know you love to party.
I am.
It's one of your more redeeming qualities. One of your few redeeming qualities.
What unifies all of us. You know, we're all the same when we're partying together.
What are you going to do for the Packer/Brewer game tonight?
I will, if I have, I usually watch sports with, put some music on and keep the volume down on the television, but I would imagine I'll watch the Brewers because I'll see the Packers. Man, the Brewers may not be playing very much longer. So I'm going to support the Brew Crew, man.
Here's, I'm not cheering against the home team. I love me some Brewers. Since the 80s. Since, the Raleigh Fingers, the Don Sutton. I love the Brewers all the way back to childhood. But I've always asserted that Scott Walker has wrapped himself in the sports fanships. He is like the Uber fan in the state of Wisconsin. He's got a Walker jersey, and he's got a Walker jersey and a Walker jersey. You name the sport, Scott Walker's got the wardrobe for it. And Wisconsin has been doing really well in sports. I mean, thank goodness. Otherwise, the winners here suck. But the winter sports, especially the football teams, the Badgers, the Packers, have done exceptionally well. And now, although the Packers are a little bit off, I'm hopeful they'll, be resurgent tonight. Governor Scott Walker has benefited greatly from the strength of the athletic teams here in the state of Wisconsin. Like, he's got something to do with it, and it bothers me a lot. This newfound fortune, this quick rebuilding that the Brewers have done, may be to Scott Walker's benefit as the chief executive of the state of Wisconsin.
Are you not entertained? So what, the games are keeping the people occupied and not looking at what's going on?
I would say in some small part, although I've seen political ads now featured in these live sporting events.
Oh, my.
But when the city of Milwaukee's feeling good about itself, and the state of Wisconsin, because of course the Brewers are all of our team, when the state's feeling good because the team's in the playoffs, well, you stop noticing how bad the governance is in the state of Wisconsin. And I want that to be amplified. Even if we got to not go to the World Series for another time in my lifetime.
What?
I would rather see the Brewers lose
than
Scott Walker win.
Crudy, we are intelligent here in the state of Wisconsin. We can do more than one thing. We can cheer on our home teams and still know that Scott Walker is not right for this state.
Donald Trump won the state of Wisconsin. You tell me how smart we really are. Thank you all for listening. You're the smart ones. Thank you, Joe Feldman, author, Grading for Equity. Thank you, Kriss Marion, a fine Democratic candidate in Wisconsin Senate District 17. Tune in tomorrow. Get Mark Pocan and a recap of all the big ball games tonight. Have a great one. Do it again for you on the radio tomorrow.
Me and you. Leave me, baby. I know it, baby. You know it too, baby. Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine we're defending Saudi Arabia, and with all of the money they have, we're defending them and they're not paying? All you have to do is speak